All right. Hopefully everybody's doing good today. Oh, let me pause that. We want to save that one for later. We don't want to play that right now. All right, we got a busy day today. Lots going on as usual. If you guys could start off though and hit the like on the video on X, I would greatly appreciate it. On YouTube too, that would be amazing. Highlights today: we've got Tesla earnings this afternoon, 3 p.m. Central. The call is going to be an hour later, but we'll have the earnings right after market close. I'll be doing a live stream for that. Bond market strength appears to be pulling down stocks this morning, or at least that's the narrative, but I believe they're wrong, and we'll talk about why. Gold is setting more new all-time highs. Silver doing great. Again, continuing to be a leader, but I think that its turn is getting ready to shift. And why Goldman Sachs is wrong about the S&P's 3% growth rate. They basically brought it way down and said that it's not going to be good going forward. We're going to talk about why that's wrong. Why stocks will go up into year end. We've talked about this a little bit before, but I'll reiterate it with a couple of posts. And then, again, all of the above, also the Tesla, Bitcoin, and everything else we normally cover. We will have Bill Ackman actually doing an interview and talking about why he switched to Trump. That'll be coming up on CNBC this morning. And then we have some news that the UK had a plan to kill X and is also, again, supporting the Kamala Harris campaign, which some might say that that's election interference by a foreign, I guess, adversary now. So very interesting times in front of us. We'll go over all of it. I'm just going to check comments real quick before we go. I am feeling better. Lussie, thank you. On Nguyen, morning Tesla. Morning and Tesla. Yes. David Chapinda. Good morning all. Hope you feel great today. Jesse, let's go. I actually feel a lot better. I've been pumping up vitamin C like crazy, so I'm pretty cracked out. Hey, Lucas. Sidecar guy, MSTY announced a 4.19 monthly dividend today. What is MSTY? I don't even know what that is, if you could tell me. Jessica Dunn, you are my favorite to listen to in the morning. Thanks for all you do, Jesse. Thank you, Jessica. Akash 2000, hey, what's up? Seymour Sats, Red Week. Yeah, Red Week, not a really bad week, though. It's really hasn't been a bad week. I was almost flat yesterday. I didn't really lose anything. So I do think we're in a bottoming pattern, but it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Tesla earnings tonight. And again, Tesla has not, they moved some of their Bitcoin and wallets, but they indicated that they did not sell any Bitcoin. Seymour Sats says, I wish I was American so I could vote Trump. So important. I'm British. Got a lot of weird stuff going on with the voting. We'll talk about that dead last here after the morning recap is pretty much done. Lots of weird stuff. Now we're talking about a week to 10-day election delay. It just sounds incredibly corrupt. This wasn't a problem before, but it's a problem now. Why is it a problem now? Why has it been a problem the last two elections? All of a sudden, where we just have massive delays in what's happening with voting. Very strange stuff. We want to talk about that. Roberta says, what's up, Jesse and fam? LW, happy Wednesday to all. Casper Holt, hey, Jesse, great to see you. What's your take on DXY? We'll be talking about that, too. That's right at the top of the list. Elizabeth W, OMG, I have a lot of MSTY. Concord, good morning, good morning. Elizabeth W is Yield Max high yield dividend stock for my, oh, okay, all right, that's helpful. Thank you, Elizabeth. Render OG, rigged as F election. It seems to be that way, but we're still going to fight to make sure that it's not. Again, if states where they don't have all this craziness are just overwhelmingly positively in support of Trump by much larger margins than historical reference, and there's a bunch of election abnormalities, West Virginia will not ratify Kamala Harris as president. So if there's some weirdness going on, it's going to get fun. Don't forget, too, Friday, Trump is appearing on Joe Rogan. That's going to be interesting. I'll definitely be hosting a show on that. Is Enphase a buying opportunity? We should talk about that. That's one of the earnings that have kind of sunk and not done very well. It looks like Coca-Cola did all right today. We had some others that didn't do all right. So we'll just kind of hop into it here. So let's do this. Let's pull up the heat map, take a look here, just see how we're doing in the morning. And actually, you know what we could do? We could do this too. We could do a little combination of heat map and then also extended hours. Take this one off, sort this out, bring this all the way down. And again, we're losing a little bit here off the right, so maybe I'll shrink this up a little bit. But yeah, so you can see Starbucks got a hit. I think they were one of the ones that didn't do too well. I think they had earnings reports today. I haven't looked at it, but I believe that's what happened. MicroStrategy getting hit the most as far as the MSTX, MSTU plays, because of course they're leverage plays. BITX, Bitcoin is definitely a faller today. Ethereum's falling, CleanSpark's falling, Cypher's, all these things are falling. I don't think that's too crazy. Where is market strength? In Microsoft and Biddy. So not a ton of market strength today, but again, if you look over here, let's just get to pre-market. We're in performance by day. Pre-market, Apple down, Nvidia down by 0.72, Tesla down, everything down. Coca-Cola down. I think Coca-Cola beat earnings. Still down. McDonald's down 6.57%. Again, E. coli. So I'm pretty sure Donald Trump didn't do it, but it's out there, right? All right, what do we have up? T, whatever T is. Is T-Mobile? I don't know. Yeah, I think so. So again, not a lot of things up today. The heat map and the watch list both look this way. If we hop over into indices, well, I don't even know. We won't be able to see those clearly, so I'll skip that. I do want to hop over into the fear and greed. I want to talk about that for a second because we are seeing better numbers here, guys, which is good. So we're seeing 69 on the stock market fear and greed index. Again, like I said yesterday, I think we were 70, 71. This thing will just start to tick down and down. Even if the market isn't falling over time, it just pulls itself towards equilibrium. So we got extreme greed on market momentum. We've got, at least according to CNN's version of this, stock price strength has been faltering. Stock price breadth is still pretty high, actually. So we like that. We want to see strong breadth. Put call options, puts are still very low. Let me turn this down. I got my phone. I'm going to kill you. But again, let me see here. Yeah. So kind of a mixed bag of nuts on there. We also have the crypto fear and greed index. What are we sitting at right now? 71. Yesterday was 70. This is a weird index. I don't even know how reliable it is. You can definitely get an idea of when it's overbought and oversold on the extremes. But again, like between yesterday and today, this thing, I think it only updates overnight. So it saw yesterday's price strength, and it really isn't taking into account. Probably just not as real time as the CNN fear and greed. And let's look at Enphase real quick on the earnings front, and we'll jump into other stuff here too. Earnings Q3 2024 results are here. For an immediate look, this is not accurate. I should have this. I might have to kill it and go back in. Let me see if it's actually here. No, it's there. Okay, so it's just an error. All right, revenue growth, negative 31% year over year. Forward PE, it says is 18.9. I'm not sure if that's recalculated. So we did go up, but we just didn't beat. We saw net income go up, 45 million. Revenues go up, 380 million. But again, in free cash flow is actually looking really good, 170 million. I mean, this isn't too far off from some of its record levels. Operating expenses have been trending down. That's probably a good thing for the company. Cash balance in bonds grew. They've got 1.5 billion in bonds. We actually see shares being bought back, I believe, because the number is getting lower. But again, it didn't beat expectations, and I think that was the real downer. So if you look here, forward guidance is still strong, and EPS is still strong, EBIT's strong. Let's see, and we're seeing institutional ownership climb. I mean, I think that this is probably going to be a bouncer. That's my guess. If we just pull up, I'll pull up Tesla and then I'll pull up Enphase here. Let me just hop over to that. So I would guess that this is something that could end up going up. And again, once we see Bill Ackman come on, I'll definitely stop for him. He's always entertaining at the very least. So again, we're way down here. This thing is butchered. I might actually start getting, I've got so many other plays going though. But down 15%. That seems overly dramatic, guys. That is overly dramatic. That's weird. That's I don't know what I've got to look at forward. I mean, their forward guidance doesn't look like it changed much. This is a crazy number. So this might be a good dip buy opportunity because again, I don't know. I'll have to look at options contracts. I'm so busy with other stuff. But this just seems way overly dramatic. It seems like a negative day is impacting this, as well as, just people being way too worried about what happened with earnings because they weren't that bad. They're just not that bad. They might have missed estimates, but this isn't the end of the world. At least they're coming back around. I think people also have fears that rates are high. That's something we're going to be talking about. I think that's completely overblown. We need to have a greater conversation about it. We'll probably jump into that. Actually, real quick, let's talk about gold, the dollar, all this other stuff that's going on, and then we'll probably jump into bonds, where we'll have that conversation. So again, we saw another recent high, but we went down just a hair this morning on gold. So that is retracing just a little bit, but it's had such an epic run. It's been amazing. Let's look at silver. Silver is retracing again today too. And I believe oil is on that same path. Let's pull it up. So oil down 1% on the day. Again, this pattern will pull it down. I don't even think it can make it up here to the $76. Maybe it could if we have some kind of geopolitical issue around the world. But otherwise, I think we're going down. I do see somebody on CNBC talking about the Fed's rate path. I want to hear their take real quick. Just real fast. Let me refresh here. Because we're going to be going into that, and I'm going to be giving you my opinion. So I'd like to hear somebody else's as well. So 1 sec. Refresh. There was a problem connecting to the server. We'll fix it. I got it down below. There we go. All right, 1 sec here. Let me go back. All right, let me go back a little bit further. See what this lady. See when they start with this lady. I think the 10 years topping out, so I'll be talking about that in a second. But let's see. Former Kansas City Fed president. Let's hear what she has to say.
What you think we would ultimately be doing. I think we're having a couple little bit of technical difficulties right now with Esther's connection. So we're going to try to get her up on the broadcast in just a moment. But a lot of that question really comes actually from our interview with Paul Tudor Jones yesterday.
No, we've been asking
that question.
Gold's hitting
the whole idea
gold's hitting highs, and rates have gone up almost every day since they cut.
Right. And so
on the 10-year.
So the question is, I don't know, Esther, I don't know if you can hear us, but we were just discussing this idea that, rates have continued to climb despite the cuts. And what does a Jay Powell make of that and think about that?
Well, good morning. I think this is a very unusual time when the Fed is cutting rates, and this is not a weakening economy. I think part of what we're seeing in these longer term rates is the fact that markets are adjusting to the expectations that they've had for some time about the path of interest rates. And I think beginning to take note of the fact that we are financing some pretty big deficits as we go.
Yeah, no shit. Everybody just seems to have woken up to that this week. It's fascinating. It's been a problem for a while.
Forward with really no end in sight at this point.
And so when you get to a November post-election, if you were on this board, what would you be telling Jay Powell to do?
So the Fed has taken a big cut already, and I think my inclination would be to proceed with caution here. Clearly, this is a committee that must commit to a forecast. They can't really, although they say they go meeting by meeting, you really are laying out a forecast. The most recent data appears to have been stronger than the level of confidence you had going into that big rate.
Yeah, we're stronger, but we want to be stronger. We're not. So this is the part that I struggle with these people. I'm going to show you data for Canada that just shows that they're suffering immensely. And we're seeing this all across Europe. We're seeing this across China. We're seeing deflation across large parts of the world. So what do we want to do with our economy? We want to ease into that and take advantage of our strength that we have now to maintain it. Even though some of it is government backed, again, large amounts of government jobs, it doesn't matter. It's still fueling the economy for now, okay? We want to take advantage of that before we start to roll over. We want to be the strong economy in the world. So we do want rates to come down, especially when the rest of the world is creating deflation. It gives us an edge. We want that. That's the thing you want to see. So I don't know where these people come at where it's like, oh no, it's frightening. We can't. Sorry, I got to turn down this phone before I start this stuff. It's frightening. We can't have it to where the Fed's lowering rates. Inflation going to come back. It's like the stupidest take in the world. It's so lazy. It's so ignorant.
Rate cut. But I think the Fed will have to follow through on its forecast until it sees a little more clarity around how the economy is unfolding, and in particular, the path of inflation.
The path of inflation. How is it? Oh, these people are so dumb. They're so dumb. It's painful to listen to. It's like, and this person, what is your job? This is the former Kansas City Fed president saying things like this. It blows my mind that these people can be so ignorant towards reality. And it's like, do you only look at what happens in the United States? Are you not looking at the rest of the world? Are you not looking at Canada and the weakness going on there? We just looked at some of that yesterday. We'll be looking at some more in another post here. Are you looking at the weakness in the mortgage sector and the auto sector? These sectors have been crushed. Manufacturing, we need to bring them back alive. We need to bring them back alive. And we don't have to worry about some rapid, unless you shut down the economy for another 2 years by locking everybody in their houses and then printing 50% of the money supply that's ever existed in the country's history in the last 5 years. I don't think we have a lot to worry about when it comes to inflation.
Do you think it was a mistake to cut as much as they did in September?
So I don't think you can say it's a mistake yet. Certainly history will give us a chance to do that. But in the scheme of their current rate cycle, again, I think you have to give this time to play out. And what will matter going forward is the path and how much further they go with that.
So how strong do you think this economy is? I mean, that's fundamentally the question, not just in terms of the growth piece of it, but also the labor piece of it.
I think the economy looks pretty good, Andrew. When you look at the outlook for growth, when you look at the labor market, and again, we've seen it come off an historically tight level of job market to now coming into better balance at the same time that inflation's come down. Those are all good indicators for the economy. That doesn't mean that the path ahead isn't going to be challenging, though.
Well, then why wouldn't we want to cut rates? If we think the economy's strong and we think the path ahead is challenging, then let's just throw in the fact that China's falling apart, that Canada's doing horrible, that Mexico's starting to see disinflationary and deflationary signs, that Europe is, and that we're the cleanest shirt in the dirty laundry right now. Why wouldn't we juice that to maintain our strength while the rest of the world is suffering, so that they invest in us and so that we can try and thrive and lead everybody forward? Why wouldn't we do that? Why do we want to weaken our economy too by remaining tight? It just doesn't make any sense.
Let me ask you if we can ask it in a just apolitical way, but I know we have 13 days to an election. Why do you think what do you attribute the economy's strength to?
Well, I think you have to say that the economy is really operating off a combination of the Federal Reserve and the federal government taking massive actions during the pandemic. We have seen a tremendous amount of fiscal money come into the economy, and that is still there. You have seen the Federal Reserve with a large balance sheet, low interest rates, and that combination at a time when supply chains were backed up allowed inflation to get a foothold in the economy. So now you see things backing off.
But so when you look at all of the...
To be clear, supply constraints are always temporary. They're always temporary. They're not inflationary. What creates inflation? Money printing. Money printing does it. If there was no money printing and the supply constraints were removed, you would return to normality. You would oscillate back to a normal level. So it's always the money printing. Make sure you understand that, okay? If you listen to Milton Friedman, you'd understand that.
The fiscal spending, do you say, oh, that was inflationary and that was a very bad decision? Or do you think that that was a good decision, okay decision?
Maybe locking down the countries for COVID, which in the end, all the stuff, there was no purpose to it. There was no purpose to it. You could have helped older people stay home, and this problem wouldn't have happened, and we would have had a lot less inflation for the period of time that we did.
How do you think about it? We were talking about Paul Tudor Jones was on our broadcast yesterday, and he said eventually the only real answer to our problems here in the U.S. are going to be to inflate away our problems.
Dude, that's always been the point. That's literally what the government does, is inflate away our problems. Is this new to people?
Yeah, I think you have to say in the short term, many of these decisions are good, right? When you're trying to provide relief to the economy. Policymakers, however, have to look to the long run. And the long run is not a pretty picture when it comes to our fiscal situation. And so the outlook.
No kidding. Wow. This lady was the president of the Kansas City Fed. Mucho, thank you very much, man, for becoming a member. Hey, Jesse, I started listening to you 3 weeks ago and never missed a video since. I really appreciate that. That's very kind, sir. Thank you.
Look, is more inflationary. There is more upside risk there, and it will put tremendous pressure on the Federal Reserve as an independent central bank to decide how it's going to respond to what lies ahead.
That was my question. How much do you think ultimately, we talk about the different mandates that the Fed has, when it comes to our debt and deficit and just how much we're going to be spending over?
All right, I'm bored with this lady. I just don't feel like I'm getting any value here. So let's move on. So again, we talked about gold, silver. They're retracing a little bit today. Oil's coming back down. The dollar. Let's look at the dollar real quick. I don't think we're getting a lot out of that lady. So the dollar has it's a little bit higher than where I marked it the other day, right? So it's a little bit higher than that, but we're starting to hit this range where we should see a rejection. And still, and I've got this up a ways, but I should probably put it down here. So if we capped out anywhere around here, I mean, heck, we could be up here technically, right? If we capped out around here on the dollar and then start to retrace down, it still shows a long-term trend of the dollar going down. And we're still off. We'd have to go another almost 10% to get to where we were on October 22nd when we were just climbing straight up. So this is a heck of an impulse, but I think we're still going to be trending downward. We'll see what happens with that in the weeks ahead. But yeah, I still think we're trending downward. Everything so far shows that that's happening. And I don't see the only thing that'll impact that. We could see strength in the dollar if Trump gets elected. It's going to be very pro-dollar. And so you could have something where the dollar continues to climb for a period of time, which again can impact stocks for that are doing a lot of business overseas. So you could see a short-term hiccup with Tesla or something like that. But I also think though that people will overlook that in a heartbeat if Trump gets elected, or if he's allowed to get elected. Now we've got swing states saying there could be a week to 10-day delay. When has that happened in American history? Can anybody tell me that? Can you guys on the Democratic side tell me why all of a sudden we're a banana republic that can't count votes in one day, especially in swing states that have questionable election practices? But now we're talking about a week to 10 days before we know who the president of the United States is. I think that's very interesting. But anyway, I digress. So we could see something where we could see the dollar gaining strength, but I still think that we could see Tesla gaining strength off of Trump getting elected, because people are going to see how much that benefits him and his companies. But let's look at the rest. So I still think the dollar is going to roll over. That's my play. Let's look at the yen. So the dollar versus the yen, we're seeing the dollar gain more strength against the yen. This ignites the whole fear of the Japanese yen carry trade. So do not be surprised if you hear people starting to talk about that this week. I still don't think it's going to be an issue, but again, the worse this gets, then I've got to see. We'll check when Japan, when the rate decision is, because again, that's going to be an impactful day as well. Let's look at the Chinese yuan. We're seeing the dollar gain a little bit against that, not a ton. We want to see China stimulate again. We'll see if that happens. The MOVE index, the bond volatility index. And by the way, BRICS, so you had India, Russia, and China all meeting this week. So again, we're still seeing bond volatility, and we're seeing strength in the bond market too. Well, I should say this. We're seeing weakness in the bond market that's pushing yields higher. And you can see some of that across it. Let's look at the 2-year. Up 0.42%. So again, climbing higher. I don't know why this keeps resetting. I swear to God, I save this all the time. Let me just do it one more time. All right. So the 2-year climbing, not just the 2-year though, the 10-year is doing it too, even though I think the 10-year is finally hitting its wall. And the 10-year is going to be a more close reflection of what you would see for like rates with the mortgage industry too. So we're currently above above the 200 moving average. It's too hard to really tell here on the monthly view, but we're really close to it. And this is where, again, I was talking yesterday, we've had the strong impulse up, but we've had bearish divergence since May of 2022. So I do believe that these yield rates are going to come down. The bond market will start to strengthen. Dennis Nuber sounds like a third world country. I know, right? We're a banana republic now. We're a third world country when it comes to voting. It's really frightening what we're turning into. And the rhetoric I'm hearing, what's his name? Joe Biden yesterday came out of his grave and said that we should arrest Trump. Just very fascinating things coming out of the Democratic side. We need to get rid of freedom. We need to have speech. We need to get rid of freedom of everything, it sounds like, and arrest Trump and go after the people who don't agree with us. That seems to be the motto. Not very impressed with it. All right, how's the inversion doing? Probably still uninverted. Even more so. Okay, not a surprise there. How's the ruble doing? Put call, I think, is still down too. Dollar gaining against the ruble, starting to crack above. We'll see if that continues. Again, we'll see. We'll see. There were private meetings between Putin and Xi, so we'll see how that turns out. Again, I still have this fear that the best time to invade Taiwan will be in the week to 10 days that it takes us to figure out who the president is, right? Like, that's a great time to invade Taiwan. All right, so let's keep rolling along here. So again, and we'll cover some more U.S. economic. We're going to look at, we're going to hop over real quickly over to here. And actually, I do want to look at TLT too. Let me pull that up as well. So, and put call ratio still kind of doing what we expect out of it. But TLT, the 20-year, down in pre-market yet again kind of hovering near this upward resistance. And this looks a little goofy on the monthly, but on the weekly and the daily, it lines up better. But we're pushing right up against it. We'll see if it cracks underneath of it. I do know one of my friends, Lance Roberts, who I respect quite a bit, is talking about how he's starting to buy TLT. I still think it's too early, but again, with TLT, you could just, if you're treating it as cash, then it probably isn't. But if you look over here, again, it wants to break higher. We've got a bullish divergence going back to September, October of 2022. And you could see this as well over here again on the MACD. So this thing has, even though it was going down here, we had divergence. I don't know. I might as well just draw it like down the middle. We've got divergence trying to pull us up at the same time. So I just wanted to show that real quickly here. Now let's get over to economic data. We did get some already today. So I'll just refresh here real quick. And I do have this for the week, so I've got more of it sitting in front of us. Oh, it looks like it just refreshed to Wednesday. That's not what I wanted. Where are my countries in here? All right, there we go. There we go. That's better. All right, so USA, we got the 30-year mortgage rate at 6.52%. Again, we've had a bounce on this. This is partially because of the fact that the bond market has seen weakness, and so yields have climbed. But I think we're at the end of that, or very, very close to the end of it. So you can see where we climbed last week. We climbed from 6.36 to 6.52. This week we've remained flat at 6.52. Mortgage applications. Let's just hop over into this. In the U.S., sank by 6.7%. Well, if you look over here, the previous was 17%. There's no forecast in this. So again, we've seen mortgage applications drop, and they dropped because of why? Rates went up. So of course that's going to happen. But again, if this starts to settle out heading into the end of the year and into the spring, where we're going to most likely see a big boom in mortgages, then this will correct itself. And that is still my take. Now, mortgage market index, again, big drop just like last week, and that is solely because of the fact that rates are higher. So not much to see here too. We did have, levels that were the highest we'd seen in years. So over 2 years, over 26 months in some cases. So this retraced because of high rates, perfectly normal. Refinance index looks very similar to the mortgage index. Again, who wants to refinance when points went up like by 75 bips in a couple of weeks? You don't want to touch it. MBA purchase index, again, dropped as well. Still some of the lowest levels. So what are we at right now? We're at 131. So if we go over here, you can see 131 is 1995. So I just want to reiterate, the mortgage purchase index has been utterly destroyed since about August of 2005. And it only briefly started to rebound. It bottomed in like 2010, and then it started to rebound in 2014, going up and up and up and up. Then we had COVID. Well, actually, it tapered off in January 2021, and then went down ever since. So this is an interesting one. I probably need to dig into this more because the timings on this are very, very interesting. I'll have to look at this more for sure. All right, what else do we have? We have retail sales in Mexico. What do those look like? Worse than expected. Again, I've said this before, but we've got weakening all around the world. We have to take that into consideration when we're looking at our own rate cuts, right? Look at this. Since the negative impulse and then incredibly powerful positive impulse. Again, this thing, its negative impulse during COVID was negative 23%, but its high was almost 36. So it definitely competed to the upside, right? And then and if you look here, the downside that it was down, the amount of time and the depth compared to how long it was above is substantially different. So we're seeing, we had a forecast of negative 0.3 and negative 0.4. We got negative 0.8. So Mexico looking weak even now. Let me see here. We got a few comments I'm going to try and get caught up on. And we have more. Well, let me talk about this real quick, and then we'll go back to it, the comments. So we got the Bank of Canada's interest rate decision. We're going to talk about why I think that's 50 bips here in a little bit. And so I think they're going to be cutting rates aggressively because their economy is in the trash. Existing home sales are coming out at 9. And then there's the press conference for the Bank of Canada at 9:30. I might see if I can find that because that's very interesting. Oh, we got Bill Ackman, guys. One sec. We'll get back to comments in a second. Let me get over here. There we go. All right, while that's happening, while we're waiting on this to come in here, I'm just going to read comments. Maybe India should come to the U.S. and give some election lessons. I know, isn't that frightening? India, better at elections than us. Greg Waldo, the Fed are amateurs and con men, per Milton Friedman's College, Steve Hanke. The Fed doesn't understand the free markets. I think they understand. I don't think they want other people to, Greg. That's my take. Think X00. Hey, Jesse, good morning. Do you think regardless if Trump wins or loses after the elections, it's a sell the news event? No, I don't think it is. I think it'll end up being a buy the news event, but I do think there's going to be volatility. And I think Trump's going to win. All right, here we go.
Election day now, less than 2 weeks.
I mean, I think legitimately Trump is going to win. Whether the Democrats let him have it or not is going to be something different. And how we react to what they do is also something different. And I know I will do my part.
So today's a Wednesday. It's on a Tuesday. Joining us now in an exclusive interview, Pershing Square Capital Management CEO Bill Ackman. And the first thing, Bill, I'll just say, if someone wants to look more closely at what your views are, this is a pinned tweet, and I think it's kind of a magnum opus on your decision, which you've had to, I think, explain. It must be one of the most interesting periods of your life, I would think, recently.
I wouldn't say that.
No?
No.
You've had to...
It's not as consequential, but I think it's a consequential election.
You think it's a...
With respect to my life, I've had more consequential moments, I would say.
Yeah, hopefully, but we're all inundated with this election this time around. It's a pinned tweet, Bill Ackman. Number of good friends and family have been surprised about my decision to support Donald Trump. Then you go into what some of the reasons are. Some of them finally, you say, accepted, but they don't want you trying to talk other people into voting for Trump.
So I guess I'm violating that coming.
You're violating, but as you said, you think it's so important at this point, not that you're endorsing everything Trump has done as an individual or as a politician, but because you think certain things about the Biden-Harris administration or Harris administration, it's that important for you to get this out because it's for the country. And then you mentioned 33 things that are sort of what you're worried about in a Harris administration more than talking about a Trump administration.
Actually, I intend to do the inverse.
Do more.
In effect, explain why. This is why not Kamala, and I also intend to do the why Trump.
Before the election.
Before the election. Haven't had a chance.
Because this is long. And there's 33.
But the why Trump is sort of the inverse of each of these things.
Okay.
Right? We can go through each of these various points. I don't know if we'll get through 33 in the show. But the inverse is a reason to support Trump.
What are the three worst things about if Biden were or if Harris were to be elected?
Look, I would say, what's interesting is one of the few times in history where you can do a kind of an A-B comparison between two administrations. All right, we've had Trump's first term. We've had Biden-Harris, and now we have an opportunity to have Harris or Trump. And so we have at least some empirical data to rely on. And I look at the world, during the Trump administration versus the world now, and that's the kind of, it's a bit like, drug testing, where you give the placebo to one side and what the outcome is. Mm-hmm. And, I think my biggest issue is, the U.S. does not continue if we have some massive, World War III global conflagration. And I think the the world has become a much, much more dangerous place in the last, this administration. And the reason for that, in my view, has been the perception and really the reality of weakness in the executive branch.
Started with Afghanistan, I would think.
It probably even begins before that, right? You can look at, what happened, Georgia, the acquisition of Georgia, in effect, or the invasion of Georgia, taking of Crimea, the Syrian Red Line. These are things, really, Obama era, but, Biden really played a role. Then, of course, the withdrawal from Afghanistan, which I think really looked like a total abandonment of our sort of partner in the region, and by the way, catastrophic consequences for millions of Afghani women and the people, sort of generally. If you look at what a
and don't forget all the interpreters that we left behind and didn't bring with us. That how insane is that these people gave their lives, risked their families, probably a bunch of them got tortured and murdered, and we didn't do the honorable thing and bring these people with us. That is just the most disgusting. We'll let illegal immigrants that are gang members from Venezuela into this country, but we won't let people that endangered the lives of their families to support the United States of America. Does that say a lot about the current administration?
Among the, a friend of mine was, helping to get, high school robotic girls out of, who are in this robotics contest out of Afghanistan. All these young women who lost opportunity. So I think it was one of the more tragic moments for the country.
Agreed.
But I look at things like, foreign policy decisions, like allowing Iran to start selling oil again, right? So they've kind of rebuilt their balance sheet. They have $200 billion. That's what enabled the funding of, Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah. Right.
I love that he's spelling this out, because this man has been a Democrat his entire life, and I love that he's looking at this through this lens and comparing these two.
And then our lack of response to U.S. forces and U.S. assets being attacked by the Houthis. The Houthis, by the way, were on the terrorist list. They were taken off by the Biden administration, apparently so that we could provide support to the Yemeni people. And then when they started attacking U.S. assets, we did nothing. Only recently have we been more aggressive in responding to them. So I think, it's a bit like, the broken windows thing in a city, right? Terrorists kind of test you out, and if you don't respond aggressively. The only thing they respect is power. And I think the result is, Putin rolls into Ukraine.
Right.
And I think, a major hot war in Europe.
I'm actually really surprised that he follows geopolitics to this level. I follow this stuff a lot, but most people do not. So it's kind of shocking how well-versed he is on the geopolitics of the world, not just now, but going back to the invasion of Russia into Georgia. That's a long time ago. So this is actually pretty brilliant.
I thought I would never see this in my lifetime. A major war in the Middle East. And it's become a lot less safe to be American. I mean, 45 Americans were killed by Hamas. We still have American hostages being held, which has been completely forgotten and never discussed. Or I haven't heard anything from Biden or Harris about hostages.
I've heard more Israel better do this rather than
Iran. Actually, just most recently, in the last couple of days, there was some information that came forth that Sinwar told his team, in effect, don't negotiate any further. In fact, pull back from the deal because the Israelis are losing the support of the American administration. And where did they get that from? They got that from our withholding weapons and leaking it publicly that we were holding back weapons in the middle of a hostage negotiation. So let's start with foreign policy. I'll call that number one. You asked me three things.
Right.
Number two, 94 executive orders reversed within the first few days. Which opened the border. And, millions of unvetted people coming into the country. Look, first of all, I am pro-immigration. My family immigrated here in the 1890s. But they were vetted. Right. They were tested for diseases, right? They had to land somewhere where they could, demonstrate viable, ability to economically support themselves. And I think even Kamala at this point recognizes the problem, and a series of executive orders for Biden started to address the problem. So I think the open border has been a massive problem. Three, I would say on the economy. You go back to remember were it not for Manchin we would have had a Build Back
Even
Better
bigger.
on top of all of the financial, fiscal, subsidies coming into the economy. We would have had probably 20% inflation or some crazy number if that had been approved. There's really, in my opinion, no real understanding of how the economy works. And again, Biden sort of committed to a certain amount of fiscal stimulus as part of kind of getting elected and just powered through with it. And the impact was actually very, very negative. The people that have been harmed the most in the last 4 years are the lowest economic strata. Yeah. And those are people for whom inflation has been, really catastrophic. Inflation, not just in, groceries and fuel, but also, rents and cost of living, insurance, and these things are driven by, in my opinion, a lack of understanding of economic policy.
This is a really great look into the geopolitics of why the current administration is absolutely failing. And it's just really great. I can't wait to hear the rest.
Those are probably the three largest things.
Let me ask you this. First of all, you were a longtime Democrat. You've supported Democrats. We talked about this.
I would say I've always been a centrist, but I've supported more Democrats by far than Republicans.
I just want to read you. This is John Kelly, the former chief of staff of Trump. He worked with him directly.
Sure.
And he says that in many cases I would agree with some of his policies. So you agree with the policy piece of this that I think Trump is presenting. But he says it's very dangerous. It's a dangerous thing to have the wrong person elected in high office. He goes on to say, in his opinion, he believes that Trump meets the definition of a fascist, would govern like a dictator if allowed, and has no understanding of the Constitution or the concept of the rule of law. He goes on to say that Trump had made admiring statements to him about Hitler, you're Jewish and care about Israel, had expressed contempt for disabled veterans, and had characterized those who died on the battlefield for the U.S. as losers.
Those statements, don't get me wrong, Donald Trump made a bunch of stupid statements, and just the way he framed things and his previous tenure, not good at all. Talking about strength, I made these same kind of arguments, right? Like him talking about what China did at Tiananmen. When he talks about strength and admiration for it, it just sounds really stupid. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's Adolf Hitler because he said somebody was really strong with what they were doing. And I think a lot of people get that confused. His actions during his first presidency were nothing like the authoritarianism we're seeing right now from the current administration. So when we're talking about like Hitler or people trying to be dictatorships, we should look at the current administration. Their actions are actually showing that, whereas you can misconstrue Trump's words to be able to believe that, but not his actions.
And suckers. How do you get your head around that?
Well, one, it's one person stating a series of things, which I don't know whether...
There are 28 people who have worked for the president, not just in close proximity, but in the Oval Office.
There's a bunch of that too. There's a bunch of things where they don't fact check at all. Mr. Monkey says the losers thing was a lie. It doesn't matter though. We're still talking about him supporting Project 2025. We're still talking about him admiring, Nazis and stuff that was happening. Like it's all talking points too. There's tons of it that's that.
Who have come out publicly and expressed things of this sort.
I think actually, Kamala Harris lost 92% of her staff too. But
I think that's a relevant sort of point. So if you want to talk about, I don't.
By the way, I want one piece on that. There are people who would argue that maybe she was not an organized.
Sachs said Harris had 0 primary votes, but Trump is the threat to democracy. This lady was literally anointed into her position.
Person and was not a good executive in that regard, right? But I don't know of anybody who came out publicly against Kamala Harris claiming that she was for Hitler, that she was against the Constitution, that she was calling people who died on the battlefield on our behalf losers. Let's stipulate that.
Okay. Let me address. Number one, I don't think Trump is for Hitler. Okay, I think that's absurd. Okay.
And
first of all,
why say it when you know that?
Hey, I get this. It's my hour.
I know. Go
Maybe
ahead.
you give me an hour.
Go ahead.
How long it takes.
Please.
You know it's not true. Why say it?
So one, Trump's not for Hitler. Most of Trump's friends are Jewish. He grew up in the New York City real estate community. He's got a daughter who's Jewish. He's got grandchildren who's Jewish. He was probably the most pro-Israel president in terms of committing to do things and actually executing on them.
Oh, this is great. This is so great. I love Ackman. He's just killing it.
Moving the embassy, delivering the...
Oh, but we're taking some things he said and we're misconstruing them. It doesn't matter what his actual actions are, or the fact that he's got tons of Jewish relatives and he was the most pro-Israel president ever, who actually shows up when Netanyahu's speaking.
Control of the Golan Heights to Israel.
Yeah, asking the question.
I think it's absurd. But the other thing that hasn't been. But let's talk for a moment. Let's get back to Kamala Harris.
Right.
I actually have personal experience to Kamala Harris, and it relates to CNBC.
Ooh, good.
Okay.
In March of 2015, at Pershing Square, we received a brown envelope in the mail, and in it was a staff memo from Kamala Harris's staff when she was Attorney General of the state of California. And it was a memo about why her staff believed they should shut down Herbalife. And the California Attorney General got a consent decree in 1986 against Herbalife. And the consent decree, basically, they were found to be a pyramid scheme. And they said, look, if you don't commit to change all of your actions, we can shut you down overnight. And that consent decree, we knew about this, was a public document. Her staff, apparently unbeknownst to us, took a hardline analysis on Herbalife, came to a conclusion that it was a pyramid scheme, advised her that she should use her powers as Attorney General, the consent decree, to shut down the company, and she wouldn't. So what did her staff do? They staff leaked the memo to us and leaked it to the media. Now, why didn't she do anything about it? Well, it was March of 2015. She's running for the Senate, and her husband, worked for a law firm that was Herbalife's lawyer. And she was told, one, that it would hurt her campaign for Senate. And two, she didn't want to go against the company. Herbalife was very strategic about the law firm that they hired. I don't know if Doug Emhoff worked on the case. But that's a character issue, in my opinion. And, for her entire staff, for her staff to leak a memo like that, suggests something about what they think of her, as a leader.
Do you think her character, just on the trade-offs of character alone, you think that her character is worse than his?
I'm not saying it's worse.
No, I'm saying
I certainly
how you measure
I called
character.
into question. So again, getting back to Herbalife, Herbalife was a company that, and still is, that's caused enormous economic harm. To the lowest economic strata. In fact, many undocumented immigrants, those were Herbalife's, and probably still are, Herbalife's principal people that have been ripped off by the company. She could have protected millions of them with a stroke of a pen by virtue of being Attorney General of the state of California. And she chose not to because she felt it would harm her Senate campaign and maybe cause some grief for us. That to me is a character issue for sure.
How do you feel about Mr. President Trump? Former President Trump has spoken very openly
Another headline
about how he's very frustrated and upset with Google, which happens to be in your portfolio, by the way, and how he believes that company is a rigged company and effectively plans to go after them on a personal basis, right? I mean,
I don't know that he's precise. Look,
I gotta say, guys, I think this is going really good. I'm excited about this.
Unhappy. I think we've seen, by the way, both Google AI, if you looked at the early iterations, Gemini and otherwise, there are some facts there that were presented as fact by AI that were not the case.
My question is, how do you feel as somebody who owns a stock like that? And you have a president who's speaking publicly, not just about, look, we could have a Philip.
Oh, hey, yeah, you got financial interests in this company, and he could harm it. So why do you care about Donald Trump when he could hurt your portfolio? I don't know. Maybe he has honor. Maybe he has dignity. Maybe he puts our country first.
Conversation about whether Google is a monopoly or whether they're doing good things or bad things or what have you.
Sure.
It is different when you say publicly, look, I hate this company because I actually think that they're doing something bad to me, and I'm going to go after them as a result of it. That's a different thing.
Okay. I'm here because, as an American citizen, I think it's in the best interest of the country for Trump to be the president versus Kamala Harris. And if it causes harm to a company I have an investment in, so be it.
Okay.
It's Kamala.
Kamala.
Love that.
Kamala. Like Kamala, yeah.
Who fucking cares how you pronounce her name? Who cares?
I'm not saying Kamala.
No, I know. It's
I apologize.
Yeah, that's okay.
VP Harris.
Stupid.
VP Harris.
So
look, my point here is I don't think Trump is perfect. I don't think VP Harris is perfect. But I think it's a very different world, again, on global security. I think Trump is going to end the war in Ukraine. I think Putin would like the war to end. It's been a disaster for Russia.
100% agree.
I can't see a world and the vice president sitting down with Putin and resolving the war. I can see a world. Trump is a deal maker. This is what he, in effect, does for a living. He's going to threaten Putin with hundreds of billions of dollars of new armaments for Zelensky. And if Zelensky is the problem in the negotiation, he's going to threaten to withdraw support from Zelensky. And both will feel threatened by Trump.
And that will work.
And that will enable
what happens if Putin then goes after the rest of Europe?
He can't.
If Putin does that, Trump will be. There's a reason why the world was a safer place. Because
I just got to say, he can't, guys. He thought this was a 3-day war. It's been over 3 years almost now. And their military is incredibly degraded. Their economy is on the shitter. They're losing power against the U.S. dollar by even more. If they actually opened up their currency, they would be destroyed overnight and they would collapse. And they're under the nutsack of China. He can't go to war. That's not even a thing. And plus, all of Poland and all the areas around them have been militarizing substantially. He just can't.
Dictators feared Trump. And, Trump says, look, if you step into Ukraine and bomb Moscow, let's assume he would say something like that.
Exactly.
Putin would take that kind of thing seriously from him.
He would.
He wouldn't know whether he was serious or not. And I think that is part of the power. That's the, deterrence comes from the perception
but that's
of
a much
power.
higher risk proposition for the country, meaning that's a big delta. That's a big delta on a good outcome and a bad outcome.
What about someone with absolutely no experience in foreign policy, being the commander-in-chief for the country?
Well, I would say the following.
He didn't receive a single.
I said the vice president has had experience on foreign policy over the last.
Bad experience.
And the experience, I think, has been a disaster. I mean, the world, just empirically, right? The world's a much less safe place, okay? Look at what's happened on college campuses, right? Kids are afraid to go to class, or at a minimum, their learning has been disrupted by violent protests on campus. We have people. It starts out as an anti-Israel protest, and then it becomes an anti-American protest. People are burning flags. This was not happening, during the Trump administration. And Trump has said, look, if any student here on a visa is supporting a terrorist, I'm going to deport them immediately. I haven't heard that from Vice President Harris.
Do you think that a repudiation of some of the AOC or this part of the Democratic Party where it is right now, it may be coming. I don't know, if you don't believe the betting odds, fine. But just as a repudiation of some of that, it would almost be a positive for the country.
Yeah, 100%. I think the single best thing for the Democratic Party as a party is for a massive loss in this election.
That's what I mean.
And that will cause a reboot, will cause a change in the leadership.
The danger is that when you characterize someone as a fascist, dictator, rapist, and you've already got him there, and if the American people do elect him, there are certain people that are never going to accept this.
Well, a judge is determined that
Okay.
I think people, Mr. Monkey, people just don't care about fact checking from mainstream media anymore. We have X. Nobody cares about that. Fuck them. Nobody even listens to mainstream media anymore, except for the people that are indoctrinated by it.
Of rape. So what?
And the independents aren't those people anymore.
What are
he wasn't convicted of rape.
Look, unfortunately, there's a lot of legal cases that are brought against Trump, which I think lack credulity. And there are cases that wouldn't. The cases that would. I mean,
what we're talking about.
Determining
for juries.
Sometimes juries make mistakes, and juries rely on instructions from judges.
Let me ask you about your own mistakes.
Sure.
So one of the things I was going to ask you about is you care about information, misinformation, and truth.
Yes.
You have been very prolific on Twitter recently.
Yes, which increases the risk of my reposting something
that's where I wanted to go with this, because you now have a massive following, and what you think your own personal responsibility is as such. Sure. Given that, and one of the examples that I was just going to point to is you had a tweet out earlier this year directed at Bob Iger, Disney CEO who owns ABC, effectively alleging or claiming, and you said, if true, that you felt that, or you thought that the debate, given some of this stuff that was going around, was mishandled.
What I said was the following.
And
someone on Twitter, X, published a affidavit that made a series of claims about the debate that had some credibility to it. At least it looks.
Well, it turned out to be wrong.
We saw the debate.
Okay. And there were elements of the debate that made it look, the nature of the fact checking and otherwise. And if if that happened on CNBC, right, the right thing to do, in my opinion, is, okay, fine, do an investigation, determine whether it's true or false. That's all I was saying to Bob Iger.
About questions had they been given to the candidate, to Harris
among
other things. And your point was they didn't turn it down. They didn't say, no, this didn't happen. And there were other things there, like the size of the podiums that hadn't been disclosed in advance.
Yeah, so there are a series of allegations that made it look like the debate was, quote unquote, rigged. And so an objective media organization would say, okay, fine, you know what, we're gonna take a look at the emails. We're gonna look to see if something untoward took place. And that's why I thought, again, in light of the proximity to a presidential election, the fact that this is the only...
But it turned out to be wrong.
I don't know.
You actually published that it turned out to be wrong.
No, I didn't say it turned out to be wrong. I said it looks like this was not a true... there's been no investigation.
We don't know. There's been no investigation. There's been no truth found.
All we know, I think there's some questions about the credibility of the person who posted it that's made me come to the conclusion that it's likely not true.
Do you think that you are you going to change or shift any of sort of what you post as a result of things like this, or you think that this is the way to do it?
If someone were
if
it were to happen again, or someone to question the fairness or treatment of candidates in a debate, and I thought it was credible, and the media organization that controlled the show did nothing about it, I would have no qualms at all about pinging the CEO and saying, look, this is worthy of an investigation, or at least a much clearer denial that it's not the case. And we still haven't gotten that.
Yeah.
Do you think that there are, you've heard about our earlier discussion, do you think...
Hey, what is Two Eyes' name? Like a multicolor-eyed dude with the brown hair? I can't even remember. I hate the guy so much, but I never pay attention to him. What is his name? Does anybody remember? I know Joe. I like Joe, but Andrew Sorkin is so by. Andrew Sorkin, thank you. Okay.
There are CEOs that are afraid to come out for Kamala Harris because of retribution from the Trump, or vice versa. Is it harder to come out for Trump or harder to come out? I think it's a no-brainer. I could go to every book party in New York and cocktail party and the mainstream media would love me, and Joe Kerner would be great if I were to endorse Kamala Harris.
You're correct. So
with Trump,
by the way, one of the benefits,
it's an absolute nightmare for you.
One of the benefits of supporting Trump, one of the few benefits of supporting Trump publicly, is many people come up to me, CEOs.
And say, I'd like to support Trump, but
Bill, thank you for saying what you're saying. I wish I were similarly situated where I could, but I have, all my employees would quit. I hear stuff like that.
Well, if you read 20 things that Kamala Harris has said in the past, it's all anathema to business and to free markets and to the filibuster and to the rule of law and to the border.
Yes.
And they're all afraid to even say, well, she didn't mean any of it.
Joe, you're preaching to the converted.
I know.
And look, I think we should tone down the emotion. I think it's a really important decision. If you want to make the decision on economics or the stock market, you should feel free to do so. If you want to make the decision on the basis of national security, if you just, the people who, by the way, I've had many people who continue to support Vice President Harris who say to me, what, Bill, I agree with basically every one of your concerns, but I just don't like the guy.
Right.
I think he's rude. I think he's crass. I don't like his style. I hate him. That's a meaningful percentage of people. And then there are the people who say, okay, the world's going to end. Yep. Democracy is over. He's going to become a dictator. At 82, at the end of his term, he's going to, he's now Stalin. And there are some meaningful.
Who becomes a dictator when they're 82? He's going to want to retire. He's going to be tired, right? He doesn't want to turn into Joe Biden and be like, blah, blah, blah. Can I get my pudding for the day before I go into the back lawn? He doesn't want to be that guy. So he's not he's just not going to turn into a dictator at 82 years old. It's just it's a stupid concept. It's very, very stupid.
Thoughtful people who this is what they believe in. By the way, I respect them.
By the way, I would argue those people fear the risk of that. Yeah. I don't think anyone thinks that risk exists with Kamala Harris. Do you agree with that?
I do.
You think there's no risk?
I think the risk. I think the system. Go ahead.
I worry about the communist dictatorship that takes over when they create their one-party system and votes aren't counted anymore. We already have to wait a week to 10 days to find out who the president is. What does that look like? after she's had 4 years in office and imported more illegals to ensure that Democrats always win going forward? What does that look like? I have that fear. Do you guys have that fear?
Can I just ask you about this?
Please.
We've talked to a lot of people this week or over the last week and a half, we've heard from a lot of people who are major investors, and they're betting one way or another on this. Are you making bets based on what you think is going to happen with the election, and where would you put those bets?
We have no bets in the portfolio on the basis of who's going to be president.
Me neither.
We don't short stocks anymore, as you know.
Right.
We own these great American businesses. Obviously, in a better economy, and let's talk, it's a CNBC. Let's talk a little bit about the economics of the next candidate. I mean, Trump is the only candidate that's talked about accelerating the growth of the country. And the only way we're going to dig ourselves out of $36 trillion worth of liabilities is through growth, right? There's sort of two.
I'm about to vote for Bill Ackman. I love this. I love. He's saying everything I've been preaching.
Answers when you're over leveraged, right? One answer is you can negotiate with your lenders. The other is you can increase the value of your assets. And how do you do that? You increase your profitability. How do you increase your profitability? You reduce expenses. He's the only candidate. And actually, let's talk about team for a moment, because it's not really Trump versus Harris. It's the Trump team versus the Harris team, right?
Bill
so what have
Ackman.
we seen? So Trump's picked J.D. Vance as his vice president. I'm afraid of mispronouncing him. Kamala has picked Walz. Walz is a self-described knucklehead, right? I can't imagine a world in which this guy is president of the United States. And you have to look at the vice president as a potential president of the United States. So that's, if I line them up, you've got
so
a guy who grew up in a very, very challenged environment, addiction, family, rural America, makes his way to Yale, armed forces. Now he's, venture capitalist, senator, extremely articulate, obviously highly intelligent. So you compare and contrast. You have Elon Musk, who's probably one of the most consequential, certainly consequential business leaders 100%. In the world. It's proven he can take on 12 things at the same time and change the world. Okay, who's going to take? He's put himself out here in this election. And first, the only one talking about government efficiency, right? And Trump's all in. By the way, RFK, okay? Right. RFK is a highly intelligent, capable person, and he's focused on a couple of issues that mean a lot to me. Number one, the food industrial complex, what's happened to the health of Americans over the last couple of decades. He's going to focus on that. I think that is a critically important issue. I think examining the 73-shot regime that we give our kids and it's worth doing.
You've spent your whole career talking about truth, honestly.
Yes.
You go out there publicly talking about companies that you think are lying.
Sure.
And I just want to know what you think when you see, for example, former President Trump publicly say on the record that he forced Deere to not move to Mexico. And then the company has to come out with a statement that says that that's false, fundamentally false. He puts on Twitter or on social on his social media platform that Jamie Dimon is endorsing him, and then J.P. Morgan has to come out publicly and say that's not true.
Actually, that's not what happened. What happened was Jamie said some positive things about Trump. Someone posted on Twitter that Jamie's endorsing him, and Trump, in effect, retweeted.
Let me ask you this,
what's wrong with
somebody
that?
who cares about truth, use the Deere example, because that's as black and white as they come.
So look,
what do you think of that?
I think there are probably many examples of Trump convincing and or threatening a company that if they open up a factory in Mexico, that he's going to tariff their goods or whatever, and maybe it confused the company. Okay, but he certainly has used that kind of technique. But let me hold on.
Go ahead.
I want to make my own arguments here.
You can.
You get to do it all day. I get to do it now.
There's lies on both sides. It's like unbelievable.
In her Twitter account, Vice President Harris put stuff out about Trump that are absolutely completely false. Like, so for example, he's going to sign a federal abortion ban. Okay, Trump's not going to sign a federal abortion ban. He's in bold letters, capital letters. He said it publicly. He's posted it. Otherwise, I can give you multiple examples. Just take a look at her Twitter feed, her X feed. It's a series of lies about President Trump. So, she's not some, unfortunately, again, I look forward to a world, maybe it's 4 years from now, and we have two candidates, and it's November 5th again, and none of them have lied. None of them have personal issues. They're like the world's most incredible candidates, and it's so hard to decide because they're amazing. Human beings are flawed. Donald Trump is flawed.
So, but
Kamala Harris is flawed.
You think they lie and it's the same? What about like eating pets? No, honestly.
This is so funny. So he doesn't care about. So Andrew Sorkin doesn't care about Kamala's lies that are literally tied to policies that matter in the election. What he cares about is whether or not somebody ate a pet, which we know there were people eating pets, probably not doing it in mass. But when you come from Haiti and you're starving, and especially there's parts that practice voodoo, you eat animals, you eat whatever you can get your hands on. I have no doubt that this happened. It doesn't matter. It's not relevant to this conversation at all, but we're going to ignore the fact that Kamala Harris brings up Project 2025 and lies about Trump all the time, and then we're going to talk about eating pets because that's what matters.
I know, because
First of all, we only got a couple minutes.
Okay, let me focus. Let's talk about what the issue. The issue is when you have totally open borders, okay, and you're flying 20,000 immigrants from one culture.
Andrew Sorkin looks like an idiot in this one, and I love that.
Into a city of 40,000 people, and there isn't sufficient infrastructure, and they don't have driver's licenses, and they have different habits. And by the way, and maybe it wasn't cats and dogs, but they were trapping geese in the pond or whatever, whatever the ultimate truth is. There's a symbolic element there. And by the way, they're in the debate. Okay. Right. Vice President Harris said multiple things that were not true. Hold on. She said multiple things that were totally false. She was not fact-checked for one of them. Trump was fact-checked for certain things that turned out to be true. So, for example, he said, "Hey, crime rate is up."
Bill.
Meaningfully, that was fact-checked to be false, and then the FBI updated their statistics recently to reflect, in fact, a violent crime has increased over the last 4 years. So,
yes. Yeah, the FBI had to update their figures. They all of a sudden found tens of thousands of violent crimes that they didn't previously find. I think because they're afraid that if they didn't release that stuff now, that they would be held legally responsible for misinformation after Trump became the president of the United States. So all of a sudden they started finding crime and murders and all kinds of things that hadn't been reported. There were like over 1,500 or something murders that had occurred that they didn't know about. How do they not know about that? Literally, the reporting systems ensure they know about it. And yet, for some reason, that was literally in the debate as misinformation and fact-checked in real time against Donald Trump, and it was true. Crime has gotten worse under this administration. All kinds of crime.
I think that's why at the end of the day, it's going to be about which team do you want? Do you want Trump, Vance, Elon Musk? I think Tulsi Gabbard is a capable, intelligent, former Democrats come over. And then you have, who are the team members on this side that we know other than Tim Walz? And Tim Walz is maybe he's a good guy, but he's one of the most unimpressive. I can't imagine him
being a
senator,
New York
let
Times
alone.
reported today, I don't know if you believe it, that perhaps Jamie Dimon would be open to being her Treasury Secretary.
That'd be fantastic. And by the way, whoever ends up being president, I'm going to support that president. Okay, because I care about the country, and I think the citizens' obligation is to help the country, and whoever the president is. Look, first of all, Trump's going to have a very effective Treasury Secretary, whoever that person is, and Jamie Dimon, I think, is pretty cautious, as has every business leader, about leaning in, kind of either way.
If Robert Lighthizer is the Treasury Secretary of the United States or the Secretary of State, that would be a good thing in your mind? I'm just asking the question.
I don't think he's a Treasury Secretary candidate.
Secretary of State?
Here's what I'd say. One of my concerns for Trump this time round was, would highly capable people be willing to step in and work in a Trump administration? And I think the answer is proven to be yes. I think, the other benefit we have, Trump did not expect to be president of the United States. The polls were like 92% to Clinton and 8% going into the election. He was completely unprepared. At 12:30 in the morning, everyone was, surprised that, although I had bet that he would be president, by the way, I won a couple of nice dinners on the basis of that. And he was unprepared, took time to assemble a team. He was attacked immediately with, the Russian investigation. This time he's had years of experience. He expects to win. People are publicly lining up to support him, sort of already. I think he'll have no trouble bringing in a very capable team. There are many CEOs, who are former CEOs, other very capable business people who are going to want to be in this administration. I'm going to help them any way I can possibly can. I'm not going to be a member of administration.
All right, we've got to.
Okay.
We're out of time.
We're out of time.
Great job.
Thank you.
Sure.
Bill.
Thank you for coming.
Let's give this guy a round of
great conversation.
applause,
You can check
man.
the markets quickly.
Bill, thank you.
Sure.
Make sure you join us tomorrow. Boeing CEO is going to.
Oh, that was so good. That was so good. That was well worth a pause in what we were doing to check that out. That was simply amazing. Let's check the time. We got about 19 minutes until the market opens, guys. Again, Bank of Canada Fed or their interest rate decision, I think they're going 50 bips, comes at 8:45, and then they'll be talking to, we'll be able to listen to their Fed chairman talk at 9:30 if I can find it. So this was such a great conversation. And you're right, guys. I love that he gets his news off of X. I love that he corrected so much misinformation from mainstream media. It's going to be really hard for CNBC to spin this towards Kamala Harris today. They're probably not even going to talk about this episode. I'll definitely be publishing this independently today so that people can see it. And my chapters didn't work yesterday. I'm trying something new today. It's just I'm trying to refine things to make it quicker and make it to where I don't get failures with Descript. So there's a bunch of stuff I'm doing, but I'll try and get the chapters in there, and I'm going to make a separate video because I got to get this out to people. This is amazing. This is really, really good. So yeah, at 8:45, we'll check that out about 15 minutes after market opens. And not a lot more detail after that. We get existing home sales at 9, and then that press conference from the Bank of Canada at 9:30. We'll see if I end up doing that or not, or I might just refer to it later on in a video if we have one. Again, economic activity supposedly tonight at 2 p.m. for Argentina. I can't wait for that. I want to see how that's doing. And then a bunch of Japanese data overnight. We have Indian data for composite, HSBC for their PMI for composite manufacturing and services is going to be overnight. That'll be interesting. We've got more data out of Germany for the same. We've got Mexico in regard to inflation and core. And then tomorrow that's when the data really starts pouring in. We're going to have jobs data, more homes data, manufacturing, composite, and services data as well, and then the Kansas Fed. So tomorrow is going to be the big start of data in the U.S. We've had a pretty boring week so far, but a lot of good stuff happening tomorrow. All right, let's move on here real quick. So I'm going to jump over real quickly over into U.S. economic data. Yeah, what a great time. What did you guys think about that? Ackman did such a great job, in my opinion, guys. Just blown away by how good he was. All right. And I wanted to show something too. If you guys look down in the bottom corner, you'll see I actually did draw the two lines. So one of them is the daily candle line. That's the top one for Bitcoin. And the other one is the weekly candle line. That's the bottom one. It kind of shows you that range that some people draw when they're looking for support or resistance zones. So we are underneath zone 1 that I had previously been referring to, but we are underneath when you look at the weekly. And I could actually maybe even draw this a little bit lower. It's kind of hard to tell if it is or not. I'd have to play with it a little bit just to make sure that it's really refined, but it probably looks something like this. So again, we're well underneath, or we're well above it, and this is the critical bounce zone right here. So this is where we want to see Bitcoin come out of. And it looks like pre-market, the entire market's down. We see Microsoft up, a little bit of Best Buy, but that's at least all the stuff that I'm following. Everything is down today. That's okay. It's all good. I do want to read comments real quick because that was so good before we move on. I just want to see what people are saying. JUAP, Trump will be more aggressive over the next 4 years because he won't be running again in 2028. He'll be more aggressive in regard to completing everything that he wants to complete, especially if he has a mandate. If he wins the House and Senate and presidency, if they let him, again, they're trying to delay election results by 10 days. South Africa can do it in a day. We take 10. So there's some weirdness going on. But if they let him and Elon Musk and everybody, Vivek and JD Vance and all Tulsi Gabbard and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., getting that Epstein client list published, I've got a post I'm going to show a little bit later about what I think Bill Gates thinks about that. And Elon Musk thinks that Bill Gates is on that list, and that's why he is so scared. So it's going to be very interesting to see how all that stuff plays out. All right, let's look here. Dennis Duber, that was refreshing. Pietro, I'm probably saying that wrong. I have always liked Ackman. I've liked him. There's a couple times where I thought a few things that he had done was sketchy. Like when he went on CNBC saying the sky was falling, and then he had been shorting the market, and then the market just crashed, and then he started selling out of that. I thought that was a little sketch. But again, things like that happen all the time on Wall Street. Jason W. had to follow Ackman after that. He's so great. Mr. Monkey, I thought first term was pretty meh in a lot of areas. Me too. Pietro, GOAT, Sidecar Guy, great interview, great morning. Thanks. Matenga, Andrew Dorkin is a puppet. Andrew Dorkin, I like that. Ryan R. Ackman is very objective. BD following Ackman now, 2 after that. Cam Prague, hi everyone. Hit the like button for Jesse, please. I would appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Heinz in, I think she lied about working at McDonald's. She did. And lied about having a grandmother. So yeah, her grandmother, she in her book, her autobiography, there was a lady in there that was supposed to be her grandmother, and her grandmother died before she was born, but she supposedly had this picture of her as in her 20s with her grandmother, 20s to 30s. Just very odd stuff. Her family are a bunch of Irish slavers, a lot of them white, and they had I think it was 1,300 or 1,600 slaves. So this is the true Kamala, right? This is the Kamala that she doesn't want you to know about, because she doesn't want you to know she comes from a slaver family, and she's mostly Indian. She doesn't want you to know that because she's decided to paint herself as black, and I think that's something that Donald Trump has been really right about. It's ridiculous too. And then when you know these facts, and then you hear her do her black voice, it's disgusting. It's disgusting, right? It's incredibly racist. Imagine what would happen if Donald Trump started talking like a black person, whatever that is, and started talking all ghetto. What would the press say about him? And yet Kamala Harris can do it because she's got darker skin. It's pretty racist. Yeah, let's see. Heinz, I think, okay. Jason W., if Dems lose, do people really think they will recalibrate? I think they'll have to. They'll have no choice. Joseph Mock, maybe they don't, but that'll just be the death of them. Joseph Mock, why did she lie? Because she's lying, Kamala, whatever her name is. David Chapinda, Ackman was on top. I agree. But the young guy is very Kamala team. Oh, yeah, Andrew Sorkin. Hump D, Dump D, love the political analysis and truth seeking regarding CleanSpark. Would you suggest reducing exposure due to the likely share offering Friday? I mean, I'm not. I hope they get it. I hope they get more. I want to see more share dilution. I don't know why people are buying Cypher, but I'm okay with that. If people want to buy Cypher, buy Cypher. I think companies that sell their Bitcoin before Bitcoin goes up are pretty stupid. I think people that dilute their shares and obtain more Bitcoin before it goes up are smarter. So that's my take. That's probably not popular in the Bitcoin mining community, but I don't care. This is my opinion, not theirs. David Chapinda, do you see India banning BTC and ETH? I actually worry about the United States. We have an article that we'll be looking at in a little bit that will talk about how the state of Minnesota thinks we should ban Bitcoin. Oh, hey, isn't that where Waltz is from? Amazing. Heinz in, where do you find the police and allow people to steal under $900 without being in trouble? How can crime not escalate? If you allow people to steal, they will steal more. That is true. Mr. Monkey, I feel the one host was unhinged. His boss should have a word with him about it. His boss are a bunch of liberals that, and again, all their advertising dollars come from liberals nowadays. So they love what he's doing. They don't like Joe, but they know Joe, if they fired Joe, they'd be screwed. Jeff L., great to see Ackman and Chamath woke up. Yes, I agree, dude. David Chapinda, what are your thoughts? I got a lot. But I see Fufu China miner is buying mining data center in Ethiopia. I mean, I don't know what you mean by Fufu. What do you think you're doing? What you think they're doing? Bluff? I'm not sure. Let's go Jesse and Trump 2024. I probably blocked Trey Gotti for a while too because he was pro-Trump. But yeah, I came around, and then I made sure to find you guys and bring you back. Theo TFB. This is why Melinda divorced Bill. He had been on the island at least a dozen times. I know. I think all of that is true. We're going to show a post a little bit later in the election side of things. All right. So enough about that, I think. I'm going to move on. Let's look at U.S. economic data. We're going to be going over U.S. economic data, the bookmarks that I have here. And then we're going to talk about Bitcoin, crypto. We're going to talk about Tesla. We're going to talk about some AI stuff. I don't have a lot in the way of China. We'll talk about some geopolitics, and we'll talk about election news And again, I don't know how much I'll get into charts today, guys. I will try. I might have to take a breather and a potty break before we make that happen. So my buddy, Lance Roberts, he's great. I've been following him a lot lately. I don't always agree with him, but I really like the way he thinks. He said, I noted yesterday that I took a personal long position on TLT and some call options. One reason was technical, and the other is lopsided market positioning, which tends to set up for a decent trade. I think he might be a little early on this, but man, I don't think he's that early. So again, TLT, as long as we can balance, as long as Kamala doesn't get into office, if it's Trump, then I feel better about longer dated bonds. If it's not Trump, I don't. So that's kind of my thesis there. But I do, he might be right, especially if Trump wins. 3 drivers for stocks into year end. So this is one of the things I wanted to talk about. We've got earnings that are positive. That's great. We've got buybacks that are going to happen by major companies, and we've got performance chasing. And so he's just showing here performance of select assets, percent change data as of September 30th, 2024, year to date. And so it shows in September, and it shows the strength that we have from Bloomberg and U.S. global investors in these different categories year to date. So I think we're going to continue to see that strength move over. And I know a lot of people were posting about Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs said that, well, here, I'll let this part play because I'm getting a little lazy right now. So let's just do this.
As we noted recently, Goldman Sachs predicts that the S&P 500 will average an annualized return of only 3% in the coming decade, given current valuations. However, their forecasts have fallen well short of reality over the last 20 years due to massive monetary and fiscal interventions. As is always the case, valuations don't matter until they do.
So again, he shows here growth forecasts from 2012 and what they anticipated for theirs, for the low end, the middle, and then the upper, and it met the upper. And then he showed their forecast in 2020, and they were actually underneath everything. And now their forecast in 2024 for their low and their baseline is, again, every time their baseline has underperformed is what he's saying, and their high-end metric has actually. So if you're looking at Goldman Sachs to be right, they haven't been right in 2012, 2020, and or now. So I wouldn't expect them to be right going forward. It's one of the reasons they had to downsize and fire a bunch of people, because they were so wrong during after the pandemic when the market was going up and then it started to roll over. They've just been completely wrong on their timing. And so I don't think people should pay a lot of attention to it. Also, my buddy Bob Elliott, he said the Bank of Canada's likely 50 bip cut today as a reminder of the type of conditions that are a call for an aggressive easing. Canada is weak. UE rate rising rapidly, unemployment, inflation at or below target, and anemic GDP growth, particularly per capita basis. Big difference from the United States. So he's just showing here, again, Canada's GDP annual growth rate. And when you look out over the longer timeframes, I think it's even more damning. And he said Canadian conditions are pretty weak, with GDP growth running at a mere 1% on annualized basis over the last couple of years, which is notably soft given the elevated labor force growth from rapid immigration. Again, there's this narrative, guys, that the woke Klaus Schwabs of the world and the United Nations and the World Economic Forum and and the World Health Organization and Bill Gates and all these people and all these leaders like Keir Starmer in the UK and in Canada are pushing for, which is the immigration, pulling more, not helping Canada at all. With more recent data suggesting economic conditions remaining weak in recent months. This is the composite PMI, the Purchase Managers Index, looking like it's rolling over. And then again, unemployment rising substantially. They're already up well into the 6s, guys. They're going to be pulling into the 7% range here soon. So this is what an economy looks like that is not the United States, and it is painful. Core inflation rate is at 1.5%. Again, pretty anemic. Basically, we're looking at inflation rates that haven't changed much, and without growth. So it's just not a pretty picture. Headline inflation is slowed to below 2%. So again, if you look at these guys, their inflation rate plummeted during the pandemic, like right after the close down, and then it skyrocketed afterwards. We're already below what we were before the pandemic. It just, none of the data is good. None of the data is good. And they're going to have to go 50 bips. And I think that's what's happening today. And I agree with Bob. Seth Golden, he has some comments that he wants to make here about the 10-year. Let's listen to him.
Is the rise in yields since the first rate cut of a cycle an anomaly? Short answer, no, but it's the third largest. For all 35 rate cuts since 1994, the median change in the 10-year yield was a decline of 3 BPs, and the 10-year yield increased 43% off the time after first cut. 1987 and 2003 were the only two larger increases in 10-YR yield and after first cut, but both occurrences soon thereafter saw 10% YR yield begin to fall and kept falling. SPX, SPY, QQ, DI, IWM, ESF, TLT, TNX, HT.
Got to kill that real quick. So yeah, I agree. So again, it's one of the highest in history, and but for the jump after the rate cuts, and but I do believe it's going to roll over, and I agree with Seth. Seth's a very smart guy. He sees the world the way I see it, I think. Lance Roberts also posted, why does the stock market continue to go up? 14 billion piling into U.S. equities ETFs by foreign investors will do the trick. They don't want to invest in their own countries. Nobody wants to invest in China, but they do want to invest in the United States because we're the cleanest shirt in the dirty laundry. Once they see us succeeding and they realize that that's good, and that we're good and we're not going anywhere, then they'll start taking those and they'll start dialing down the risk curve and looking for other areas like emerging markets. But right now, we're the best, okay? So just remember that. If you look Asia Pacific, look at how much money they're pouring into us in 2024. They don't trust China. They trust us, right? Look at how much Europe is pouring into us. They don't trust Europe. They trust us. All right, another one from Seth, and then I'll get ready probably for market open, and I'm going to grab some coffee while I let you guys listen to them. S&P 500 made 47 all-time highs in 2025. With the most recent occurrence in October, only 8% of calendar years have peaked in the month of October since 1950. Roughly 57% of annual peaks occur in January and December period. Low probability market peak will have occurred in October, with high probability of peaks in December. I agree with that. Agree with all that. There's probably more to go over. I will do that in a second here. I'm actually going to go ahead and jump over. I'm going to refresh here. We're going to get ready for market open. And then I will be right back after I get coffee. So give me 1 second here, guys. Going to go full screen. Let you guys listen to them.
When you speak with Nickel, what Nickel's about is making it so that there is a 23-second bowl burrito if you were at the Boston. It really is amazing. The Boston Chipotle, that's what he highlighted in the last call. I mean, think about the minutia, but think about what happens when you get into a Starbucks. I mean, right now, I say, you know, I don't go because my triple venti cappuccino with skin wet means that I have to read, I have to have the Times, I have the Journal, and I have to have a stack of research this big, so I am ready for the wait. That's over.
I'll tell you what, I mean, the restaurant between Cake, Red Lobster, McDonald's, Denny's, you see closing a ton of stores today, and Starbucks. So many challenging stories. On the other hand, you got Kava's and, you know, chefs that are crushing it.
Kava has a tremendous Sweetgreen, by the way, is the most automated. Most automated. Crushing it. Yeah, so you go to the kitchen, the modern kitchen there. Oh my God, it's unbelievable. Now, David, here's the key thing, because it's 9:27. Are they going to close the Denny's that Jensen Huang worked at?
I don't.
That was actually my first thought, too.
I don't know, Jim, but I'm glad you mentioned his name. I think you may have earlier. But again, the kids in the frat houses can now start drinking.
Well, good for them. Yeah. Look, I don't encourage underage drinking. I want to go on record for that.
They're of age.
Well, there were some people who went on record.
And they have a game that they drink every time you mention it.
Well, good for them. I tell you, and I told you I like Bud Light. Now, let me just go over this one thing. When you look at Nvidia, last night there was a Denmark. We have the first sovereign AI. It's in Denmark. I think it's big. It's linked with Novo Nordisk. But David, going to India. Now, India, I don't know if you know, it's CNBC India. It's a big anniversary.
I do, yeah.
But India, 1.4 billion.
Yes.
And there's a 3-day conference, and the stock's down. Now, what is that about? Ennui. There's ennui toward winners. We haven't even covered Vertiv yet. Ennui. That's E-N-N-U-I.
Meanwhile, and we're gonna get an opening bell, so we're gonna get cut off here. But this increasing battle between Qualcomm and ARM.
Can we save that, because I got a dossier on that one.
Let's set it up, and then we'll get the opening bell, and then we'll come back to it. But basically, ARM has given Qualcomm a 60-day notice of cancellation of what is essentially their architectural license agreement. And if they were to stop getting the ability to actually use that license, a lot of what Qualcomm produces would no longer be able to be sold, conceivably. They've already been in litigation. They continue to be about a separate issue. Let's get the cheers out of the way. We'll come back
because,
to it.
You know, this is probably the biggest battle that we're going to face, because
needed that coffee.
This is zero sum now.
Let's get the opening bell here in the the CNBC Real-Time Exchange to the big board. It's the New York Liberty celebrating their first WNBA championship. Big parade today, Jim, coming down Broadway.
Well, I mean, I like something good. We need something that we both sides agree.
All right, let's refresh and see how the markets are doing.
A head club manager in a previous show, and there's like great polarization. I see no polarization. We love these people.
Finally, a champion in New York.
You're not against them, are you? I mean, you're a wealthy guy. All right.
And Joe, believe me, Joe Tsai, of course, the owner, very happy. Play at the Barclays Center here in Brooklyn.
All right,
Meantime, with the NASDAQ, it's Upstream Bio, a biotech focused on treating inflammatory diseases, celebrating a recent IPO. Jim, it's kind of, you've been mentioning this early in the morning. Wake up, futures weak, soft open, yields higher.
Well, this is all about the tremendous move. 4.2 goes to 4.5. We all act as if the 10-year's never been. Thank you. We all act as if the 10-year's never been at 4.5. I mean, anybody who made money in the 1990s is like saying, what the heck?
I mean,
like 4.2. Give me 4.2. How about mortgage rates up 1/8, David? Is that going to shut down Pulte Home? That's what people are saying. The negativity right now is completely equal to how great the market's been. I mean,
Yeah, it does feel as though there was a heightened bullishness at the beginning of this week that has been met with selling.
Yeah, everything's red because of the bond narrative, which we talked about a little bit earlier in the show. People think that bonds are going out of control. This is why Lance Robert was actually buying TLT soon, because he thinks too many people are on the wrong side of the trade. I also showed you a post from Seth Golden saying that we're more likely to flip the other direction and yields are likely to come down. And again, that's my take too. I actually also, if you look in the bottom corner, you'll see how Bitcoin, and you know what? I'll just bring it up on the big screen here. Let me save that version of the chart, and I'll just show you guys over here. Just 1 second while I put that up. So over here, if we look at Bitcoin, so I've drawn that second line of support that I was talking about yesterday that I just haven't done a good job of drawing, that shows the weekly time frame and where we have support. And so if you look over here, and you draw this out, and honestly, it can go just a little bit lower. It's a little bit off. When you look at the weekly, you got to kind of, no, maybe not that low. No, maybe it's around here. Is that right? That's pretty close. That's pretty close. We'll just leave it there. So the weekly time frame, these are pretty much in line with each other. So right now we're testing that next layer of support on the weekly zone. So again, when you have wicks, this is kind of a technical thing that you guys need to understand. When you have candle bodies, that shows a strong area of support or resistance. When you have wicks, you discount those. So on the daily time frame, if we look over here, you could see how we had the candle body, not the wicks, here, here, here. And so when we draw that out, it showed this first layer of support, which we broke down through. But when we switch to the weekly time frame, we can see that weekly support. And so, like, again, if Friday at 3 p.m., I shouldn't even say Friday, it's Sunday for Bitcoin, since we're looking at Bitcoin. It's Sunday at 7 p.m. If this thing closes right here, then on the weekly, it still found support. If it closes back up here on Sunday, then on the weekly and the daily time frame, it's found support. So these are just technical things that you need to learn. Let's look up in the top corner here. How are we doing on markets? So optimism, PayPal, 1.2%. PayPal. Ugh. Is PayPal going to be my beast? Are you going to give me all the money to buy the Tesla dip? Is Tesla going to dip? I don't know. Find out this afternoon at 3 p.m. with the market recap. We'll actually be starting probably at 2:30 again. We're going to try and get through all the more normal market recap stuff up until Tesla earnings, and then we're going to be following a bunch of other people. I'll probably be hopping on kind of piggybacking off of streams with Herbert and others. Tesla Boomer Mama, I love these people. I love listening to their insights. Maybe pop over to Farzad, see what he has to say too. But oh, guys, if Robinhood and or PayPal end up taking off, my options give me 10-1 on PayPal. So if PayPal's up 1% today, that would be 10% for me in my options. And I have almost $500,000, I believe, in those contracts. So I would love to see Hood or PayPal or something like that really skyrocket. And if Tesla skyrocketed while Bitcoin's down, I'll take that too. I don't know who's going to jump. Oh, guys, I need to apologize too. I did not update the portfolio. Again, I was so close to it, but I just didn't do it. part of the reason is it just sucks and it's laborious, but I need to get in there. I need to get into the Discord. My primary focus right now, though, has been trying to get it to where these YouTube videos are just killing it. I want to get it to where they're really good. I want to get it to where the flow is right. I want to get more structure behind it. I want to get the chapters. I want to start to slice it and dice in. So I put more focus into that. I haven't actually traded anything in my portfolio, though, for like, I don't know, 8 days, 9 days now was the last trade I made. So there isn't much change, just so you know. But I'm very excited to see what happens here today with PayPal and maybe Hood. I hope they both run. I hope they both go up. Let's see, though. But yeah, it could be down. It could be down heading into the morning. Let's see what happens with Bank of Canada in 10 minutes. That's going to be a big deal. We need to see what's happening with them. I'm gonna actually let Jim play out a little bit here. I'm going to let him play out a little bit. I'm going to check some of these other videos on CNBC to see if there's anything interesting I want to talk about. Actually, before I even do that, let's go back over here. I do want to finish some of these. I didn't finish. So Anthony Pompliano said it took 221 years for the U.S. to create the first $12 trillion of national debt. We added another $12 trillion in 5 years. This is insane. So look at this. 1700s all the way up over here, closer to the pandemic, and then look at what happened since. It is insane. It's uncontrollable. It needs to be fixed. We need to see interest rates come down. We need to fix all these things. This says median outperformance is the best in Bloomberg Intelligence's record dating back to 2019. Maybe this is Signal. It says median outperformance is the best in BI's record. Okay, same thing. Median outperformance beats, median underperformance misses. So this is good. Again, we've got some misses in here, but guys, look at this. The outperformance beats. The median level here is literally the best going all the way back to 2019 when they started this thing, I think. It says third quarter is as of October 2021. We did this one yesterday. So let's get out of that. Let's get over to Bitcoin. I want to talk about that and crypto-related stuff. You should have a look at Expel and Atom as long bets. Why? What's interesting about them? We need Bull Lee on the TV now. Tom Lee? Yeah, maybe. All right, let's take a look here. So this is fascinating, right? So I put, is it surprising that this is Tim Walt's home state that wants to ban Bitcoin? So this article from Bitcoin News says Federal Reserve suggests taxing or banning Bitcoin to preserve government deficits. And this is the Federal Reserve of Minneapolis. Is that surprising? The same one that almost burned down. Let's let this, I'm going to let this play out. I don't want to read all this. This is a long post. So give me 1 second here. Let me just refresh because it doesn't seem to have my little button. And I want my button. Oof, what a beast. What a beast. Let's play this out.
I prefer the 1996 Minneapolis Fed, which produced the money as memory paper. An intellectual exercise that without... I prefer the 1996...
I don't want to go there. I want to go here. 1 second. I'll just highlight it all. There's no way I'm reading all that. My voice gets bad enough as it is. All right.
The Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis has sparked debate with a recently published research paper suggesting that the U.S. government may need to tax or even ban Bitcoin to help manage the country's growing deficits. Released on October 17th, the paper warns that Bitcoin, a decentralized digital asset with a fixed supply, poses challenges to governments that rely on running permanent deficits. In a world where government spending often outpaces revenue, Bitcoin has emerged as an economic disruptor, according to the Fed's researchers. The main issue highlighted in the report is what the paper calls a balanced budget trap. This trap occurs when the presence of assets like Bitcoin forces governments to make tough financial choices, including balancing their budgets. The researchers argue that Bitcoin, with its limited supply and decentralized...
Oh, yeah, we don't want to actually balance the budgets. We need to ban Bitcoin or tax it to death. Doesn't that sound like a better future, guys? You should totally vote Kamala if you believe that.
Nature disrupts the traditional methods governments use to finance their spending. The paper states, a legal prohibition against Bitcoin can restore unique implementation of permanent primary deficits, and so can a tax on Bitcoin. The Fed suggests that taxing or banning Bitcoin would allow governments to continue spending more than they earn without the need to make immediate budget cuts. A primary deficit happens when a government's spending exceeds its revenue, excluding interest payments on debt. When this overspending becomes permanent, it means that the government intends to keep spending more than it collects for an indefinite period. The U.S. national debt currently stands at $35.70 trillion, with an annual primary deficit of $1.80 trillion. According to Reuters, this year's deficit is the largest outside of the COVID-19 pandemic period, largely due to a 29% increase in interest payments on Treasury debt.
Here.
Related, U.S. the solution. The paper from the Minneapolis Fed is not the first time central banks have raised concerns about Bitcoin's impact on government finances. Just a few days ago, on October 12th, the European Central Bank ECB also issued.
Can you see what they're trying to do around the world? Can you see what the European Central Bank, the World Monetary, like basically every organization that's involved with Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab, right? Can you see what they're trying to do? They're trying to shut down Bitcoin. They're trying to prevent it from being able to take over. They're afraid of freedom. They're afraid of Trump getting elected. This is all well against their plans, and they want to kill it all.
A report criticizing Bitcoin. The ECB's paper went a step further, suggesting that Bitcoin's price growth benefits older investors at the expense of newer ones, a phenomenon they believe should be regulated or even stopped. Jürgen Schaaf, a senior advisor at the ECB, echoed these concerns on social media, calling for policies to curb Bitcoin's growth or eliminate it entirely. He noted, non-holders should recognize that Bitcoin's rise is fueled by wealth redistribution at their expense. There are compelling reasons to advocate.
Wealth redistribution at their expense. That's hilarious coming from the central banks of the world.
For policies that curb Bitcoin's growth or even eliminate it. Unsurprisingly, these reports have not gone unnoticed in the Bitcoin community. Matthew Sagel, head of digital asset research at VanEck, commented on the Minneapolis Fed's report. Saying it joins a growing list of central banks targeting Bitcoin. The Fed fantasizes about legal prohibition and extra taxes on BTC to ensure government debt remains the only risk-free security, he said. Siegel also referenced a post by Bitcoin analyst Tuur Demeester, who criticized the October 12 research paper from the European Central Bank. The paper has also caught the attention of Dan McArdle, co-founder of Messari, a digital assets analytics firm. He pointed out a curious contradiction in the Fed's stance on Bitcoin by referencing a 1996 paper from the Minneapolis Fed titled Money is Memory.
So again, there is a collected effort to go after Bitcoin by the left. You need to understand that. You need to understand that when you think about who you vote for and what you're voting for. Solana has hit its highest weekly real economic value in its history. If you look over here, looking at all ways that you make money in Solana, so base fees, priority fees, tips, vote fees, all of that, by far largest amount. Again, winner take all, and out of shit coins, I'd say Solana is the winner, or I should say winner take most. That's what James from Invest Answers would tell you. Also, Cointelegraph said just in, Tesla still holds 11,509 Bitcoin, worth almost $780 million, and recent wallet transfers were just internal shuffling per Arkham Intelligence. So no biggie there. And we talked about this yesterday with Render. This is fascinating to me. I don't know how many of you guys got to watch that 3-hour video. It's a long one, but from the guy, one of the guys that's in here, I posted about it. Just amazing, absolutely amazing. All right, let me get over to my notes here and see where we're at. So we've got about 2 minutes until we see what's happening with the Bank of Canada. So we're going to check on their rate decision. I think it's going to be the 50 bips. We'll see if I'm right. What else we got? And again, I think Bitcoin's just back testing. I just showed you that a second ago. Tesla, people were talking about Tesla. Let's look at Tesla. And Enphase, I guess, is getting butchered. We can take a look at that too. So Tesla trying to go up. Down 0.06, but again, bouncing a little bit on the day. I don't know. I still think, you know, what's weird. So here, guys, here's what I've said. I've said, hey, we could see this thing go down to 200, right? We could see it go down to even 190. This is all possible. This is theoretically possible, that this 190 range, like right over here to here. I'm going to buy it if that happens. But what's interesting is we've already seen kind of a roll over here. And so it's kind of a flip of a coin, guys. It really depends on what happens with Tesla's revenue. I don't know if they're going to do something with their Bitcoin holdings to try and boost up Q3 revenues, but they could. And I don't think these 0%, 1%, 3%, 2% offers are hurting their bottom line as much as people think they are. So I still see a beat in revenue, and I see earnings where that's the iffy part. I don't know what they're going to do. They have levers they can pull. I don't know if they're going to pull them. So maybe the stock goes lower. I don't think it has to, though, and I think that's something a lot of people aren't prepared for. Everybody's prepared for it to go lower. I already own Render Shale. The company is really interesting to me. I don't know if I'll buy more because we're so late in the altcoin cycle, and I don't like long-term gains, but it just depends. If other things skyrocket and I make a bunch of money and Render hasn't, I might buy more. CleanSpark is down. Is it a good entry or wait? I think it's a great entry. Mucho says, you and James Invest Answers are my two go-to YouTube channels. Man, to even be compared to him is amazing, so I really appreciate that. I think he's great. Robert, that is why they always push for CBC or central bank digital currency, a CBDC. Universal basic income will probably end up happening in some degree, no matter what, because we're going to have a bunch of robots taking massive amounts of jobs. So unless everybody's going to be a YouTuber like me, you're going to see stuff like that. It needs to be done well, though, where it's incentive based, where people have to actually like help in society. Otherwise, it shouldn't be given out. But so there should be like a program where people are still working essentially, but there will have to be something like universal basic income. But I think if you combine that with embracing Bitcoin within your society, you can print a bunch of money, which we're still going to have to do no matter what. There's just no way of getting around that. We're too deep. But we can make it better, and I think we can make it to where the U.S. dollar doesn't collapse for decades, and really just kind of gets overtaken and doesn't even necessarily collapse. That's the future I see. Most Bitcoin maxis will not agree with that statement, but I think it's the right one. Freedom options, and SoFi goes green again. That doesn't surprise me too much. Let's see here. So we got Optimism. That's a layer 2 solution on Ethereum going up. We got Biddy. That's just shorting Bitcoin. We got the Hang Seng Index up 1.27%, just bouncing off of major drops. We got Solana up 1%, outperforming both Ethereum and Bitcoin again. We've got Palantir up almost 1%. We've got PayPal up 0.4. We got Square up 0.43. We got SoFi up 0.33. Or 0.36. It's changing every second. And then Doge trying to come back. I actually think today is probably going to be a day where we bounce, where we start off rough and then we bounce later in the day. It's already not even looking that bad, honestly, just from the stuff I'm watching. So I think that's probably the path. Ionic is up 4% today, 95% in a month. That's awesome, Alejandro. I'm happy for you. I still think it's not a good company to own. I own things based on fundamentals, and the financials sure as heck don't look good for Ionic. So unless you can start coming up to me with better things than it's went up, then I don't really care too much. Joanne Johnson, I think the fact that everyone thinks that Tesla will go down makes me think that it might fly. I would say that the sentiment is more pessimistic than optimistic, but history tells us, at least recently, that it's better to be pessimistic with Tesla heading into earnings. But again, there could be a contrarian play there too. And I own a shit ton of Tesla options. I don't know if I'm at 1 million. No, I'm probably at 900,000 or something right now in Tesla options. So it's a lot still. So I could get a nice shave. I'll get crushed pretty good today if it goes down, but I'll just buy more. Maybe not initially. We'll see. I am seeing Bitcoin bouncing off that weekly layer of support. That looks good. Do I like AMD? I don't know. I think chips are going to go up. I don't know if AMD is going to be one of the benefactors over the short term. There's probably going to be a time where they do better. Eric Hebert, Canada dropped Prime by 0.5. Did they? Cool. That's exactly in line with what I expected. That's probably why we're seeing this ease. This is why we're seeing the bounce today, guys. It's because Canada dropped by 50 basis points. This is just, again, more liquidity. CPA, good morning, Jesse. What's up, brother? How you doing? Brother. So, yeah, Canada, 3.75. Woof, they're spinning those quick, aren't they? So you think we move fast, guys. Look at China and Canada with their rate decisions. Look at this. Canada was 5% on May 31st. They've had a couple of 25 bips already, so they started early. Look at how much weaker they are. So 25 bips, 25 bips, 25 bips, 50 bips. They're already down 125 bips since May 31st. So this is good. It's good for the weakness around the world is good for the United States. It's good for the United States because, again, cleanest shirt in the dirty laundry. Let's see how the dollar is doing today. That probably didn't hurt it much. So, again, I think we just kind of had to sell the news event. I think everybody kind of expected Canada to go to 50, or at least, I did. So, interesting. Again, I still think we're going to peak around here. Could we peak up here? You can see a lot of, resistance building up. It could go a little higher, maybe 105. We'll see what happens with the dollar. But I love that they cut by 50 bips. I think that's really good. Enphase is down. Earnings were not great, but I still think the company... Yeah, we talked about that earlier, Tiago, if I got your name right there. I actually think the financials didn't look that bad. They just didn't beat, and so everybody's butchering them. If you look here, they're still doing better, right? We saw the trough in Q1 of 2024. Expenses are going down. Cash flow looks like it's almost back to where it was. Debt was going down. Buying back stock. Bonds look good. I actually think this company is probably a good investment. I just don't know what their growth rate is going to be going forward, and I don't know how much Tesla hurts them, but their estimates still look strong. Institutional ownership is going up. Short interest is going down. These are not the marks of a company that's failing by any means. And let's just look at Enphase here and see if it's getting a bounce. It got crucified earlier. What were they down? 15% in pre-market. So down 14% now. I think this is going to be a bounce zone for Enphase. I really don't have cash to buy, so I'm not too worried about it myself. MetaX, can I have your opinion on SoFi versus PayPal? I think PayPal options have a much greater multiplier to the upside. I think SoFi can still do really good if you're just owning the stock. I think individual stock performance might be similar, just different timing. It looks like SoFi's running more. But next week is PayPal earnings. Heinz in, Trudeau throwing out a lifeline to his citizens by lowering interest rates. Man, Canada's hurting so bad. Would you sell ETH for Sol? I already did, Lim. I did that a long time ago. Over the short term, I don't know. So there's a couple things to think about with ETH and Sol. Always think about your tax obligation and how long you're going to hold it. I actually think the market cycle ends in less than a year. So if I'm thinking it's ending in less than a year, then any moves I make in crypto right now are going to be in the United States, long-term capital or short-term capital gains instead of long. So I'm looking at doubling my tax obligation. But if we look at the market cap of Ethereum and compare it to Solana, Ethereum is $311 billion. Solana is 79. So it's a much smaller vessel, and yet it's got much greater transaction history like we looked at over here under the Bitcoin section. When we were scrolling down here, I mean, look at that. Look at Solana. It's hitting all-time highs for its transaction value. And if we go a little bit further down here, we had some other posts where we, right here, look at this compared top chains, DEX trading volume. So decentralized exchange trading volumes. Top 1, Solana. Number 2, Ethereum. Number 3, Binance Chain. Number 4, the Base, which is the Coinbase one, I believe. Arbitrum is the layer 2 on Ethereum. Then we got Polygon. So there's just like Solana's winning. Solana's winning across the board, I think, in everything, but I would always think about tax obligations. Hugo on X says, which interface is this one? It's great to monitor. What do you mean by interface? Right up here? This thing I'm on right here? This is Crypto Bubbles. I like this. I actually look at it from a bunch of different vantage points. You can look at different coin. This is the top 100. You can look at, the top 101 to 200. You could look at watch lists. You could look at your favorite list. You can do this in like a bunch of different ways. Like these are all the ones I own and how they've done over the last week. Math did really good. Ape, Beam, Helium, Doge, Solana, Axis. So some of these did really good over the last week. If you go the month, some more of them did really good. But they could do better. The year hasn't been bad on them. I didn't own Bonk. I didn't get the 5,300%. I just bought it on the dip. But this is a pretty helpful interface. I like it. Global payments partner with PayPal. Ooh, PayPal news. Okay, that's exciting. Let me just see real quickly. How are we doing on? Is PayPal up? PayPal's 0.32% right now. Let's find that news real quick because that I love PayPal news. I don't hate PayPal news. Let's just look here real quick. And again, we got more to go over, guys. We'll try and rush into the remainder here soon. Cool. Okay, awesome. Thank you for anytime you guys have breaking news and some of the top things we're following. I always love it. So do not hesitate to throw it out there. It is always helpful. Oh, I love my new mouse scroll. It's just so much better. All right, let's see. What's the best stock or whatnot to buy if Harris wins? I don't know. Just bet on the world coming to an end. Maybe nuclear. Because we'll be radiating and all die. I would go for that one. I wouldn't go TLT as a hedge. And long term, I mean, we'll definitely there isn't much that can happen. There isn't much, dude. This scroll is so great now. Actually, having a mouse that works well, it makes it so much easier, and it saves me time where I'm not, which saves you guys time. So I love it. I want to see this real quick. I got to see this. Oh, wait, I want to see what's going on with Maricopa and some of these bullshit delays on voting. 1 second here. I want to see what they're saying.
Also warning, it's going to take them to Maricopa County officials warning of lines on Election Day, and also warning it's going to take them 10 to 13 days to tabulate results.
Why does it take 10 to 13 days? This totally seems like they're trying to steal the election. I'm sorry, it does. It really, really does. All right. Theo says, while James has great points on Sol versus ETH, ETH is far from a zombie chain. All ETH layer 1 and layer 2s have more developers and activity than Sol. It won't flip this cycle, in my opinion. It could, though. It could, though. And again, I'm invested in layer 2s, but I don't even see the financial incentive of layer 1 anymore. And I was a big ETH proponent, but I don't know what it means anymore. What's up, Bacon? How you doing, bro? Rumi, Jesse, you may want to put the link to Discord somewhere. I have it in multiple places, guys. So if you go up here under my profile, you can click View More. The link to Discord is on here. So it's right there. And then also I throw it in chat a decent amount when people ask for it. I don't know if somebody did, but I'll just assume they did since we're talking about it. So, but it is out there. So there it is again. All right, let me get down here. So let's go stocks I follow. That is our next part here. So let's talk about it. Let's go into probably Tesla. I do need to shrink this a little bit so I can get the bookmarks. I hate how the refresh works on this. So annoying. So annoying. All right, so let's go to Tesla. We do have some NVIDIA AI stuff to go over too, but I want to look at this. So Holmar's catalog, Omar says FSD is effing amazing. What a load off your back. So thankful to the Tesla team for making my life easier. He also shows a video of how it handles traffic. It's getting so much better, guys. I can't wait for 13. Supposedly coming out in the next week. Can't wait for that. Let's watch this real quick. So you can see the construction. It's looking weird. You got some cones up here. Well, no, just a sign and a cone. What's going on here? I'm going to speed it up a little bit. 1.5x. All right, so we're stopped. That car looks like a mess. I don't even know what's going on there. There's a bunch of people. Oh, this is a one lane thing, like where they're doing major work. So now this thing needs to cut over. Cuts over. Boom. So it's on the wrong side of the road, has no issues following these cars, going that direction, staying at. This used to be so bad. Yeah, Ethan, they did cut by 50. I think that's why the market's bouncing a little bit. So look at this, man. This thing is driving down the wrong side of the road along with other cars and has no problem doing it. Is paying attention and steering a car that demanding in life? I will never understand this. That sounds like the same kind of comment of like, why do we need email? What's wrong with sending a letter? Why do we need pagers? What's the point of a pager? Why do we need cell phones? Why would anybody need a cell phone when they have a landline? When I hear stuff like that, Robert, that's what I hear. It sounds like you've never experienced full self-driving. I use it all the time now. In the future, our kids won't even want to drive. They probably never will if they're young enough. So you cannot understand this principle, or maybe you don't commute enough. If you drive an hour each way to work every day and you spend 2 or 3 hours commuting, I think you could understand why full self-driving is so important and why it's going to take over. If nothing else, just look at it this way, man. Transportation costs, if you don't have a human driver, drop exponentially. Can you understand the principle of wanting to save money and be safer and have less deaths? Does that make sense? I hope it does. Because saving people's lives and then paying maybe a third of what we currently pay right now for transportation, which lowers the base costs of everything we purchase, because you have to think of transportation as like semis too, right? I think that's pretty important. I think that's pretty important for humanity. Alejandro, boy, you love your Ionic, provides a cloud computing, quantum computing services to Microsoft. They don't provide quantum computing services because there is no such thing as a quantum computer. Now, they might have contracts to do that in the future, but there's no way they do it because there is no quantum computing. even the quantum computers that Google has aren't really quantum computing. If they were quantum computing, then they could theoretically crack Bitcoin right now and break into every bank and even the Secret Service and the Pentagon. You could do anything with a quantum computer. So again, still. And let's look at Ionic. Let's just go back to Ionic and how much money is Ionic making? How much money is Ionic making right now? Let's see. Let's go back here. Ionic with all these contracts that they have. Let's see how much revenue they're bringing in. So again, they've had an increase. They made a whole $11 million from their quantum computing that's changing the world, but they have free cash flow of negative $35 million. And their net income was negative $37 million. So this company is losing 3 times as much money as they're bringing in. So again, it's not Ionic. My whole point here is that they might have a lot of bonds. They might be able to dilute people like crazy. They might be able to burn 3 times the cash of what they're bringing in. But so far, this isn't a real company yet. And so the stock price could keep going up. I need to know more about the actual contracts and know that this company is real. And I just can't believe that yet. I mean, there's nothing in their financials that show it. So unless you can show me all the contracts, unless you can show me people from Microsoft and all these other people they're working with saying that this company is changing the world, I don't believe it. Again, contracts, service, quantum computing services to Microsoft's Azure, Amazon AWS, and Google Cloud. So Google's supposed to have their own quantum computers. So why do they need these guys? Quantum computers already exist and are usable. That's just not true. It's just not true. Yeah, I'm sorry. FSD in India is going to be wild. I can't wait for it. 64 qubits, an 18 quintillion operation in a fraction of a second. Cool. Awesome. Exciting. It's strange. It's strange that since they're doing so well and since they've developed the first quantum computer for the world, why is their revenue $11 million, Alejandro? Again, I'm tired of talking about it. If you can get me some people from Microsoft or Google talking about how this company is going to change the tech community in the world because of their quantum computing, then I'm more interested. Right now, I just see a company that's got a stock price going up and has no fundamentals to back it up. All right, let's move forward. All right, back to Tesla. Got to get back to my Tesla point here. All right, so again, this thing handling construction really well. It's awesome. It's awesome to have technology that could literally drive us around, even if people don't see it. All right, so this says CCDH, and I'm putting this because it deals with Elon, says whose explicit written goal is to kill Elon Musk's Twitter. This is an organization within the United Kingdom government that one of their top goals was to kill Twitter. So if you vote Kamala Harris, just remember you're voting for the team, guys, that's being supported by the UK that's trying to help them in the election right now and win it. They've got people on the ground. They're giving money to it. This is literally election interference. They tried to kill Twitter in Europe. Again, these are not only has its chairman come from NATO's Atlantic Council, its former comms chief was the CIA operative who worked extensively in NATO intelligence ops. These are the people that want to kill Twitter. Roland Percher shows that Norway is having some of their best numbers in sales for Tesla ever. We've got Tesla Japan will start selling its Powerwall home battery system in Japan through electronics stores chain Yamada Denki. We've got Not a Tesla app showing that 12.5.6.1 is rolling out. And I saw another thing saying it was rolling out to a bunch of people. Let's just click in here real quick, see if the release notes, what they say. Oh, it's a long one. Under the supervision, full self-driving. Let's see what we actually have here. It looks like it's just a ton of different enhancements. I don't know what is all unique. Coming soon, HomeLink and My Garage integration, use without continuous press. It's getting better. I don't know. We'll look at what the final release version is. Let's keep going down here. See what else we got. Let me go back one. Yeah, again, so that you could say that, Alejandro, but I'll believe it when it's not the stock price pumping, but it's the actual like net income, and again, I'll believe it when I see it. Just to be clear. Soaring Shitty says the difference between ionic and other quantum technology is that they use trapped ion technology and they can fit normal server racks and don't need super cooled systems like others. They run at room temp. Cool. That should make them a ton of money. And maybe it's real. Again, maybe it's real. I don't know enough about the company. All I know is the financials don't give me any insight whatsoever that they're going to be doing good. Tesla, Puerto Rico, selected for a major energy storage project. Tesla Puerto Rico has been chosen by Genera Puerto Rico for a 430 megawatt energy storage project across 6 strategic locations. Genera PR is a private energy company in Puerto Rico responsible for managing and modernizing the island's power generation system. This key initiative aims to stabilize the island's power grid and reduce load shedding by 90%. With a $760 million investment, installation will begin in Vega, Baja, Cambalache, Costa Sur, and other locations targeting full operation by the end of 2024. So another massive contract for Tesla Energy. Let's see here. We got, yeah, that was the deployment. We got wind energy. Speaking about energy, has a ton of maintenance, I said, and so this makes sense. So if you look, wind energy has just the amount of capacity added isn't really going anywhere, as solar has an exponential growth curve. Again, because we got a big nuclear reactor in the sky that we can pull energy from till the end of time. Tesla Chan in China says, don't forget that the construction rate of Tesla China's energy super factory is well over 70%. So by the beginning of this next year, we should see this energy factory actually producing revenues. Probably a big deal. Probably some signal there. China allows foreign firms, including Tesla, to operate data centers in key regions starting from October 23rd. That is today. 10 foreign companies, including Tesla, will be allowed to independently operate internet data centers and other value-added telecommunication services in 4 pilot areas: Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Henan. This marks a significant step in opening up China's telecommunications sector to foreign enterprises in these specific regions. So again, they're letting them do more with their data centers now, and that had to happen. They need Tesla badly just to try and show that they're opening up to the West. All right, Holmar's catalog. Tesla Q3 earnings probably won't be pretty, and Q4 isn't looking better given the heavy sales incentives we're seeing. I'm actually not worried about the sales incentives. I don't think they affect the balance sheet as much as Holmar's thinks they do. He said, but that's okay with me. Maximize delivery volume, turn a profit, bet the house on FSD and Optimus, build chargers, focus on the long term. I do agree with all of that. Alex says, leaked documents show British advisors to Kamala Harris are seeking to kill Musk's Twitter. This is actually a leaked document from them. Again, the Center for Countering Digital Hate. That's a fun little organization. Wants to destroy X and freedom of speech. What the fuck is going on with this world? I agree. What is going on, Alex? Again, one of their top annual priorities was kill Musk's Twitter. Focus on advertising, trigger EU and UK regulatory action, progress towards change in USA. So the Center for Countering Digital Hate is a censorship organization to go after Elon Musk and make it to where there is no way that social media can exist without government censorship, and Europe being a part of the control of that. I think that sucks. Damn, Jesse, your Chinese pronunciation is great. Well, I mean, I've spent tens of thousands, maybe. I can't say tens of thousands. Thousands and thousands of hours focusing on China over the last 5-6 years. Breaking: Elon Musk's PAC has launched an X community focused on exposing voter fraud and election interference. I think that's good. I think it's good that they have that going. And again, the X API. Again, Doge designer saying X is the only social network with open source of its algorithm. And we know it's the one that they want to go after, right? So we need to support X. All right, let's see what we got. Do we have anything under NVIDIA and AI? Just this post here. And if you guys have other ones too, people I should be following, let me know, please. I'd love to see them. The future investors, it says Nvidia, TSM, and ASML, the big three. These 3 players will be crucial and dominant in the semiconductor industry during the 4th industrial revolution. Nvidia designs the GPUs. TSMC is the only manufacturer with sufficiently advanced factories to produce semiconductors with the finest resolutions. Agreed. ASML is the only company capable of developing lithography machines for the semiconductor industry. That is true. And China has not come close to any of this stuff. All right. And then Hood, let's see what we got on Hood. So Amit is back. He said KBW, this is 21 hours ago, upgraded Hood from $25 to $30 yesterday. And then he talked about how, hey, I got some messages from a friend who's talking about how they're putting a bunch of money into Hood. I personally wouldn't put it all in one account. I'd do the 500,000 SPIC limit, but it looks like they're putting a lot more. Hopefully they're using separate accounts. It doesn't look like it. But, oh, and was there anything else for Hood? Let me see here. Crossroads on October 21st, 2 days ago, saying I'm going long on Robinhood. You might be asking why. And he's just showing how good they're doing as a company. We've talked about that a bunch. I'll be doing, oh, and Tanner, I retweeted this. Tanner had a video. I don't know what the audio was like. He said he was touching legs with Vlad. So I don't know. I guess Amit's not the only one close to Vlad attentive, but Tanner is now as well. And it looks like Crossroads has Vlad retweeting him. So it looks like these three are in a trifecta here with Vlad Tenev. But again, Piper Sandler upgraded on the 21st, Hood to 30 from 27. So we're seeing a lot of upgrades. I think Hood and PayPal are definitely going to treat us good in the next couple of weeks, months, quarters. So even if some of these others take a step back, I think we've got that to look forward to, which is great. Do I have anything else with PayPal? Just that one. PayPal 7 days away from earnings. I'm expecting a double beat on a guide. I am too. Nathan Z said, here's an episode discussing the incredible opportunities PayPal's ad business with PayPal's ad business general manager. I haven't watched this yet. I will check that out and let you guys know what I think. Yeah. So I think PayPal is going to be a juggernaut. All right. Let's see here real quick. Did we get more economic data? I think we did. I think I might have missed it. Let me go back and look at that. I'll look at comments and get caught up with those. And then if you guys have any stocks you want to look up, let's do it quick. I'm probably only going to be able to get through maybe 5 or 10, so we can do that. And if you guys have more comments about Ionic that you want to talk about, throw them in Discord and give me good arguments and resources and reference material for why Ionic is just so transformational. Again, there could be something there that is bringing the stock price higher, even though the financials don't show it. I need to understand it. I can be turned around. I didn't want to push render, but after seeing that video yesterday that you guys produced, I'm definitely interested in it now. Render OG or whatever in YouTube. I'm definitely interested in it now. Existing home sales. A month over month, -1%, expected -1.6%. So actually beat expectations. And it looks like, yeah. So there was actually a beat in existing home sales. That's actually kind of shocking. It's still in the doldrums. Some of the lowest levels, again, going back to the 90s and the 2009 range after the great financial crisis. So not super great. Would love to hear your thoughts. I think Block is a great company. I'm interested to see what their earnings look like. Jack Dorsey is back in it and really pushing the Bitcoin narrative. I think if Bitcoin goes up a bunch, that we're going to see that do well. Do I own Rivian stock? I do not. I'm not interested in Rivian at all. DJ, any thoughts on Tesla earnings today? I think they could go either way. I think I'm buying if they go down. I would love to see them go up, though, and prove a bunch of people wrong. I think it could really mark a turning point in the narrative for it, but maybe we don't see that until Q4 reports in Q1. Sealess, analog devices. Is that like just a random comment after saying, do you own Rivian stock? You said before that maybe soaring. What specifically do these rack components do? Oh, maybe you're talking about Ionic. All right, let me see. Any thoughts on price? Yeah, let's look at Square real quick. I don't know if there's any news on Square. Let's actually check real quickly. I haven't really seen anybody posting about Square. I had some people that followed me for a while that were all Square bulls, and then they kind of got quiet. Just because, again, it just hasn't been the fintech everybody wants to be in. But it's up today, 0.19%. Jamie actually is one of those people who talks about Square all the time. Will this trend continue in Q3? I actually think it probably could. I don't have a I might have a little bit of an investment in this, but not a lot. I'm actually going to save that one real quick. Looks like we got the owner of Coke talking right now. I don't know if I'm really interested in what he has to say. I wish they had a search under here. God, I haven't even saved a bookmark on Square in ages. I'll have to find it later. Let's look at the finance for Square, though. Let's pull it up. Enphase is bouncing a little bit, only down 13% now. Still a pretty rough day for Enphase. I still think that's a buy, though. SQ, let's look at Square. We haven't looked at the Square chart in a while. I used to pull it up all the time. So again, still kind of climbing. Down 0.07% today, but it's trying to get out to its breakout zone over here. It briefly broke out above it, and then it went back down and rejected, and then it tried to find support over here on peak volumes. Did a pretty good job doing that. Kind of looks like an inverse head and shoulders, not going to lie. This is one I could see take off. I think people, like if you, I don't know what the options play looks like, but, and I probably need to clean this up with the right coloring that I normally use for these head and shoulders. In this case, an inverse head and shoulder. But, I mean, doesn't this look like an inverse head and shoulder to you? Doesn't it kind of look like that? It does to me. So the measured move on this, again, is very high. I don't know if it's this high. Let me just see real quick. No, it's not. I don't even know why I had that projection. Oh, I was just marking it to the .618. Let's do this, though. Let's just do it off of this more conservative. Oh, it actually goes higher because of the fact of the line. So it gets us to the same place. Yeah, so that totally makes sense. Yeah. So I did draw this before probably. So this is what I see happening with Square. I don't know what time frame it happens. Maybe into 2025. By that time we can get up to here. If the economy is doing well and markets are doing well and melting up, I mean, this thing could go. It could go pretty good. Dario, STLD, November 2024, big volume. You can look. I'm probably not going to look at options right now, but I can look at the stock. What's going on with the stock, though? Is it a good company? Can you look into GER, your opinion to invest? I think it was pretty good last time I looked at it. I can look at it again. Yes, they probably got tired of all these sawing. It was above gold, saw it. Jesse, the analog devices ticker gets censored. It just says ADI, please review. Oh, okay, weird. Why is it doing that? What is it censoring that for? That's a really strange thing to censor. Let me do STLD real quick. So Steel Dynamics. I mean, their net income's dropping, their revenue's dropping, their debt's increasing. They've been buying back shares. Their operating expenses are lower. Their estimates are maybe starting to improve. I don't know what their dependency is on China. That would be my worry. Their institutional ownership has went down. Short interest has went down. It looks like they were able to... I mean, the forward PE is 12. The previous one is 11.97 for just the regular PE. I don't know. There's just nothing interesting me with the steel industry right now, especially with China falling apart. They were consuming so much steel before. I just think there's going to be a lot of competition in the steel industry. I don't know if you could tell me why this is going to do better. Why you think steel is going to do better. Maybe it will because the United States will draw it up. I don't know. I don't totally see the narrative behind it. All right, let me pull up ADI. Analog devices. Why would YouTube censor? Weird. All right, so let's see what we got here. Forward PE is 28. Are the estimates going up in this thing? Must be. A little bit. EPS is going up. EBIT. All right, let me see here. Institutional ownership started to creep up. Lots of insider buying back in 2020 and 2021. Not a lot since. A little bit, not a lot. Nothing really alarming there. I don't like how high their debt is, but at least their cash position and bonds are starting to increase, and they have been working on expenses. This is in semiconductor space. A lot of institutional ownership, not a lot of retail. Why analog devices dip more than broader market today? Dividend aristocrats. Semiconductor earnings are coming. I mean, the forward PE looks better. This is not a bad number. I just don't know if this keeps happening. Do they keep going up? They're underneath their enterprise value. It's 118 billion. This thing could maybe jump. It's not totally compelling to me right now. Let's look at the stock. I'm probably going to have to add this one because I don't believe I have it. ADI. Let's see what its technical pattern looks like. Wow, straight up. Looks like a steady Eddie to me, at least since the great financial crisis. So to me, this looks like, again, that line is pretty, let's just say this. If this thing drops below this line, you buy it. That's kind of the rule, right? Right? Since the great financial crisis. What is the growth rate? So over here in 2020, it was at 79. It looks like a good company to buy the dip, dude. So I don't know if you want to buy right here, because again, it's kind of on the upper end of that. There's probably another line in here. Let me just draw this. There's like a couple of different lines of support and resistance. Should change the color on these maybe too. Yeah, so like there's different lines of resistance and support, but this is fascinating. This is a really consistent chart. So yeah, maybe this is a good steady Eddie. Does it have a dividend too? It'd be crazy. It does. Cool. Yeah, so it's not a bad looking stock, man. It's probably a good buy and hold. I'm gonna save this one. This is definitely one we need to add. Remind me to add this on the Discord, because this is interesting. This is a really interesting chart. I don't even need to pull up like trend-based fib extension or any of that crap. I mean, just look at this. It's just like buy, buy, buy. If it drops underneath green, you buy. Especially every time it hits the 200, you buy, right? Buy. So if you just bought here, made a bunch of money, sold a little bit because it hit the resistance line, then it dropped, then you bought here, made a bunch of money, went up, you could actually even sell here, and again, it would have dropped back down. You could have used the money somewhere else. Then when it dropped back down to here, you could have gotten a lower price entry. You could have let it right up, get above its line. You really knew it was overvalued over here, sold, let it go back to the 200, go back up, maybe sell a little bit more, because we're getting near the upper resistance line, goes back down to the 200, you buy more, you let it go up here, you maybe sell a little bit over here, wait for it to go to the 200 moving line, buy it again. This is just a really interesting stock. Very cool. Very cool. You see this. Thoughts on APP? Let me look it up. Oh, and GUR. Somebody was talking about GUR. Let's just look at it. Gorilla Technology Group. I think this is one I liked. Let me just look at what the estimates were. So had some really massive increase in revenues, and it looks like they're guiding towards that to start to pick up again. EPS actually being positive. Institutional ownership is very light. No insider activity in here. Short interest was over 13% recently. It's down to 6%. So people have been betting against this company. The thing I like, well, I mean, their operating expenses have not been scaling really good. Like they've been going up a lot along with revenue. So if they could scale that better, that would be cool. But that forward PE is 8. If this thing's got any kind of growth, that's stupid cheap. It's interesting that they're piling into bonds so much, 28 million in bonds. But the valuation looks cheap on this one. R&D has dropped a ton, but look at their general administrative expenses. They're very high. They went up a lot along with this revenue boost. So I don't know what to think of this one. I don't know what to think of it. It's hard to know without understanding the company really well from a fundamental level. What do? They're a software in Taipei. And I don't know Taipei, Taiwan very well, but again, you're taking on risk of a Chinese invasion. And I think the invasion risk picks up a ton around election time. Hopefully we don't see anything happen then. APP, let's take a look. Let me know, guys, if there's any other news that comes up. I'm probably going to call it here in a little bit, but we'll try and get through a few more of these. Yeah, that mountain chart. See, listen, you're right, dude. That's just a sick looking chart. You really have me. Keep that one in the back of your mind. Keep track of that so you can have the group monitoring it. Because if we get another like flush to the 200, and I've got excess cash, that might be a company I just buy. It's such a consistent revenue generator, and you get a dividend. I think dividend plays become more interesting as I make a bunch of money on Bitcoin and Tesla and PayPal and Hood and all these others. I'll be more interested in like some longer term plays that are kind of steady eddies that give me some cash. All right, so what we're looking at, APP, Aploven Corp, 44% revenue growth year over year. Forward PE is 25, current is 69, so you can see some growth there. Estimates look good. Seeing institutional ownership growing. A little bit of selling in Q3, 2023, 2024. I don't know if these are just, people hedging their bets. Maybe they've just finally selling the company stock and they've owned a lot of it. Stock-based comp is still high. Oh, excuse me. It's still high, but we're seeing the right kind of divergence where expenses are going down and revenues are going up. I like that. What does this company do? They are software applications in Palo Alto, California. They've got a lot of institutional ownership, decent amount of insider too. Not a lot of retail. Cash flow is very nice looking. Very nice looking. Debt is high. So $3.4 billion in debt. But look at that net income. I don't know, man. Very interesting. Very interesting stock. I don't hate it by any means. I'm going to pull up a chart on this one. This is another one. Remind me, guys, if you're on Discord, remind me to add this. You guys are coming up with some fire today. And again, with Ionic, even though I'm shitting on it, guys, I'm shitting on it because I'm just very pessimistic on the space. I've heard people talk about, woof, look at that stock just screaming. It could scream more. Fascinating. Earnings coming up too. Not a bad looking stock, dude. Not a bad looking stock at all. Up 3% on the day. Let's look here. You guys have some very interesting investments. That's for sure. We're getting a good crew here, guys. So let's draw this from the 22nd, okay? Say this was the bottom. Then we'll say this was the top right up here. Then we had a nice solid retrace back to the 50 moving average on the weekly. And then that's our line. And you can see the launch, right? Fibs work, guys. You can just look at them and see how beautiful they are for support and resistance, right? Look at this. Grinded up against that for several weeks, and then now it started to break out, and now it's just an easy run to 193. Beautiful looking chart. Looks like a great company. I'm going to set this to sharing too. Remind me to add these guys. There's that request part. I haven't done a bunch yet, but I'm working on it. That's going to be an objective. I know I keep saying that, but I'm trying to do a lot now, right, guys? So you got to bear with me. I will hopefully get more help in the future. I probably need to pay an admin. Or the problem is I've just got to figure out how to distribute this stuff more. All right. So APP was cool. Fascinating on that one. Another interesting point is that in addition, so this is I'm assuming it's Alejandro talking about quantum computing and Ionic. It's bipartisan support for investing in quantum computing. South Korea is highly involved with Ionic. The president is aware of Ionic to the extent that the scientist Kim Jong-sang has a close relationship with the government and has met with the president several times to showcase the technology. Samsung and Hyundai are also very involved. Yeah, they can be very involved, but it can be like startup type involvement. This is only $11 million in revenue. So they could just be like, hey, that's cool toy. If you make it happen, let us know. Otherwise, we will definitely support startups. But most startups fail, right? So, but you could be right. You could have the golden goose. I don't know. I don't know enough about it yet. That's why you guys need to make your case in the Discord. And if Ionic isn't in there, I need to add it, right? Chris Manning from X, what program are you using for your fundamental analysis? I use Visual Stocks, which Martin was nice enough to put the link of down there. It is a great tool. My friend Alejandro manages it. We'll be using it today for Tesla earnings. Steve Brewster, cannabis stocks are low-key Trump election play. Rescheduling could happen this year. Yeah, it's just there's a lot of competition too, but that is a good point. They could be a pop for sure. even though there's a lot of fundamental issues and financial issues with those stocks, they could be a pop. Shalayak, the best options play is for sure ARKG at this point. I like it. I'm still patient on it, but I do like it. One hell of a mountain climbing chart. That was in regard to the ADI one. I've owned ADI and on and off over the years, especially the 2000. It's a great stock, man. I can definitely, since 2008 on, that's been basically just an own it. I haven't seen a chart that respects trend line, resistance, and supports that well in a long time. That's a fun one to trade, man. If there's anything to trade, that's a fun one. Robert from X says, all right, Bitcoin, do us all a favor and bounce, and then the Tesla numbers are pushing Tesla to 200, and then we buy the shit out of that. I agree. Bounce Bitcoin. Or just PayPal. PayPal take off. It's up 0.5% today. Take off, bro. Keep going up. I like making money. Give me some money. I've got about 600,000 in PayPal. I've made up almost all my losses on it. I might start peeling some of that off. That might be the one I peel from. Robinhood, I'm up 140% on my calls on that one on average. I might peel some from that too, if I need to for Tesla. If we just can't get some Bitcoin volume, I'll just have to take it from where I can take it. And 600,000 in PayPal and a couple 100,000 in Hood, I can just start peeling a little bit off at a time and hopefully start using that. Cam Brog, can you check BBAR, please? It's a bank located in Argentina. Ooh, okay. Well, you had me at located in Argentina, Cam Brog. So let's look at the financials first and see if we can find it in here. It's Argentinian, so I don't know. Oh, we do. Alejandro, he loves Argentina. He spends a lot of time. I don't know if he lives there now. Holy shit. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to work on the cussing. Whoa. What the fuck is going? What is this, dude? I need to buy this. All right, we're stopping on this one. I'm gonna have to do more research on this one. I got to go to the bathroom. This is probably, and I've been running for 2.5 hours. This is probably a good place to stop. Yeah, Cam. Yeah, we're gonna look at this one more. We're going to look at this one more. I don't have future estimates on here. I need to talk to Alejandro and see what I can get there. But this is fascinating. It's got a forward PE of 1 cent. And I think Argentina is going to take off. Oh, you got me interested, bro. All right, we're gonna bail out here, guys. I'm going to give you something to listen to. And I will see you guys later on. Okay? Let's see what's up next. We're just going to play whatever's next here.
Precipice of a global revolution of economics, politics, and government. Welcome to the blockchain. Power corrupts, money is power. The power to control the money is one that is now in the hands of those who pretend we can't function without them. So how can we do something about it? Working hard to get a raise, lifting that wage up. Inflation takes it like a hidden taxation. Manipulated interest rates to give the banks a way to create money with the loans that they're giving out daily. That means our money is dead, and we gotta pay back more than 100%. No wonder then why the middle class is going under, when the ones above them gotta cover and come to collect. And many have no access to banking, making payments or saving, so more fees are taken. And every day the gatekeepers are trying to stop change. We cannot wait. Welcome to the blockchain.